Story 1. Mom and sister tried to reconcile me with my ex for years, but I married someone else and got pregnant. I started dating my brother's best friend when I was 16. We were together until I graduated high school, when he proposed and I rejected it. There was a lot of drama with my family asking me to reconsider because we could have a long engagement or make a promise to reconcile my relationship with my brother. 36 suffered for a while, but the one with my sister 32 never recovered. She was sure my ex was the best fit for me and became unbearable when she started dating my ex's brother. My ex was invited everywhere by my siblings, even to some family holidays, but I didn't say anything since he was their friend too. That is until my sister started to push for us to get back together. My sister did everything from trying to get us on blind dates to making us share a room during holidays. No matter the occasion, my ex was invited to it. After a while, I had enough and asked my parents to intervene. They were clear with my siblings and stopped inviting my ex to things or allowing him to tag along so much. It was slightly better, but while my brother backed off, my sister didn't. It all came to a crash when I met my husband during a semester abroad. He was from another university but the same country, and we just clicked. It was magical for me, and we got engaged after dating for a year. My family was very happy for me, except my sister. She kept insisting I was in the honeymoon phase and will grow out of it. I clearly didn't, and after many, can't express enough how many fights and attempts to reunite me with my ex, I simply let her know if she pulled anything again, I will stop talking to her. What does she do after that warning? Makes me hermo and requests I spend all my time with the bridal party, aka my ex, and sets one of her friends as my husband HB's date. We didn't realize until we were at the reception and the poor girl tried to make a pass at my husband. My sister said that since we are not married, it was okay to explore things with other people. I left the party and the next day spoke with my parents and brother. I explained that while I won't make them choose, I will not talk to my sister ever again, and if they try to fix stuff between us, I will simply cut contact with them too. My mom was devastated and tried to negotiate, but my dad and brother said they would respect my decision, and apart from 2 attempts from my mom, I haven't spoken, written, or anything with my sister in the past 6 years. My sister has tried everything to reconcile with me, from gifts to tantrums, but I simply don't talk to her at all. If we are at a family event or dinner, I simply act like she doesn't exist. At first, she made snarky comments or tried to create drama, but since nobody backed her up, she gave up. She did have a meltdown when she was informed she was invited to my wedding but would not be part of any preparation. My brother says he feels guilty for going along with it for so long, and his relationship with my ex has suffered since. My ex, they still talk, but they are not as closed anymore. The issue? My mom's birthday was a couple weeks ago, and I finally announced we are expecting our first child. This is not the first grandchild, but is the first granddaughter. Everybody was very happy except my sister. My mom noted that and asked me for tea the other day. My sixth sense told me not to go, but I wanted to be positive. The first thing I noticed when I arrived was my sister's car. Then as I entered the door, there was my sister, her husband, my ex, and my ex's mom. They wanted to have an intervention since my childish tactic has gone for so long. My ex said that he was just trying to be romantic, but he understands I couldn't appreciate it. His mom said I was just hurting my sister for wanting the best for me, and she apologized already, so I need to forgive her. I was just sending texts to my family. Dad, brother, husband, and looking at my mom in disbelief. My BIL had the balls to tell me I was a hurtful person and I need to learn how to act like an adult since I'm having a baby now. Then my mom began reading a letter about how hurt she was, her daughters weren't close, how my sister was wrong, but she was well-intended, etc. Then my sister read her letter and began crying and telling me basically another version of what the rest did. I said nothing to anybody, just sat there until my brother arrived. He was angry beyond anything I've ever seen before. He grabbed my stuff and told them all he was really disappointed and disgusted. We went outside and sat in his car until my dad and husband arrived. By then I was just sobbing and he kept saying sorry. I am unsure what happened in there, but I sent everybody except mom an email with my lawyer's number info attached and stated I don't wish to be contacted by any of them ever again, and if they do, I will go to the police. Nobody has contacted me, but I know from my dad my mom and sister are hysterical. They told him they hope to repair things and for my sister to be able to be on my baby's life, maybe possibly being a godmother. My dad is staying with my brother at the moment. They support me, but some others in the family don't. I've even had mutual friends call me since they are worried about my sister's well-being and asking me what happened since she is now going by the narrative my husband is keeping me away from my family. I hate having my business in public, but I did go the public route and posted a long FB post about everything that happened. Sister, Bil, and ex are being dragged, which even if it wasn't 100% intended, I feel is deserved. Now my mom has been inconsolable, which does make me feel bad, but not as bad as she made me feel with her little intervention. I agreed to have a talk with her a couple of days ago and laid the ground rules for any possible future interaction, including therapy, family therapy, clear boundaries, no sharing information about me with my sister, and separate holidays. Most important, if she ever pulls anything like this again, she will for sure be cut off. She feels this is too much but is willing to do it. She thought it meant immediate access to baby news and it is all solved, but I told her it is a process and she needs to prove she has improved. My dad and brother refused to talk to my sister and they keep apologizing for not stopping it earlier. We've forgiven them since they were able to move on and grow. My husband supports whatever I decide, but my MIL is unsure cutting my mom's access to her granddaughter is the way to go, but says it is ultimately my decision. I am torn about what to do with my mom. Comments where OP has replied. Comment. What are their logic like now that you're pregnant you should stop playing make-believe with your husband and realize your happy ever after is with your ex? What about your baby? Your ex and his family going to accept her? OP. My sister claims she is not trying to get us together anymore, but that I can't take away her chance to be an aunt. She said I am a bad sister for being close with my SILs who are amazing people. I obviously don't believe her. My issue is what to do with my mom. Comment. She couldn't be your best friend without you dating your ex? OP. I wish I could tell you, but I have no idea what her thought process is. My husband has the theory she is just mentally unwell. The ex. The most ridiculous and scary thing is he still has the mixtape CDs I made him when we were dating. Those things are about 20 years old and he still hold on to them. Comment. I'm kind of surprised your stalker ex, and yes, I will call him, that is still in your brother's life that said hold firm with your mother, no timelines, she has to show she can stick to your rules, sister needs to live with the consequences of her actions. OP. To be fair to my brother, he did start to cut him off when I told my parents I was very uncomfortable with my ex around all the time. I was living away for college but would visit my family during breaks. He also made a very big effort to make my husband feel welcome, which deteriorated his relationship with my ex even more because he felt betrayed by my brother. Nowadays my husband is one of my brother's closest friends and he only speak with my ex when is about our nephew or to not be rude. Comment. You need to realize that your mom is supporting all of this. A big reason big sis is continuing this is because she knows your mom also thinks it's right. OP. This makes me very sad since my mom was always so nice to my husband and now I am re-evaluating their whole relationship. OP. Background and culture: not Indian nor from a religious family. My parents were good, nice parents. They thought it was a romantic thing at the beginning but later realized it wasn't. They encouraged me to go to college and everything. Now I know my dad actually supported me and my mom might have just played along and have the same beliefs as my sister. My sister had this idea we would be best friends married to brothers. Update 1. Same day, 16 hours later. The edit I wanted to post but couldn't. I want to thank you for the amount of support and advice so far. I want to give a little more info that is in my comments since there are too many for me to answer them all individually. My ex and I broke up when I was 18. He is 37 now. The reason for our breakup was that I didn't want to get married or engaged. My sister's insistence comes from the fixation of wanting the both of us to marry brothers and being best friends. My mom has always been so nice to my husband, but I am beginning to think it was all a facade, which makes me very sad. My ex has been with people since the breakup. He also has 2 kids with an ex, but he's never been married. My sister says that is a very romantic thing to do since he has only ever wanted to marry me. I should also mention his obsessive behavior is not only with me. I know from the grapevine he was very similar with the mother of his children, but now he is refocusing on me because my sister is encouraging it since she needs his help on getting back in my good graces so she can be a good My brother did start to cut him off when I told my parents I was very uncomfortable with my ex around all the time. I was living away for college but would visit my family during breaks. He also made a very big effort to make my husband feel welcome, which deteriorated his relationship with my ex even more because he felt betrayed by my brother. Nowadays my husband is one of my brother's closest friends and he only speak with my ex when is about our nephew's sister's son, or to not be rude. Both my parents seemed to be supportive of me not wanting to be around my ex so much, but I guess only my dad was in agreement. On the day of the tea party my mom told him she was making me my favorite tea and sweets, but he couldn't stay since we would have quality time together. My dad left to go hang with my uncle since he thought it was a nice sentiment for my mom. He is very pissed off. My husband tried very hard with my sister when they met, but now he just ignores her and believes she is mentally unwell. We don't know if she is or not, still there is no excuse for how she behaves. They invited the ex and his mom because they thought it would be good for me to face the root of my issues with my sister, or at least is their official version. Also, we are not Indian, not really religious. My husband and I are from the same race. There is also no wealth disparity between my ex and my husband. If there is, it would be in favor to my husband. Lastly, my SILs, both my brother's wife and husband's sisters, are enraged about the situation. My husband and his sisters will be talking with their mom about her comment. My brother and his wife are considering going and see with my mom permanently. In the meanwhile, they will not allow her to see my nephews for a bit. The more I read, the more I think I might have to go and see with my mom for the sake of my kid. My husband is heartbroken to think all their interactions were faked, says. He is even more enraged. She made me cry and doubt I was a good person. I realize there are still countless conversations to have with my family about my mom, but I will definitely be going for a restraining order against my sister and the ex. The proper update the state of my family so far. I had a conversation with my mother, but she insists she knew best. I am a bad person and she will be getting grandparents' rights or even custody. I am nothing what she says, but I still panic, so we sent her a letter about it. My dad moved out definitely. He told her that he could not sign on her terrorizing his kid. My brother and his wife also decided to go and see. I know it seems very sudden, but I think I undersold the level of despair I had after the intervention. My husband told them afterward they had to think very well about what they appreciated and to be kind and receptive to everything, but would not raise a kid on a toxic environment. Reason 32716 why I love my husband. My husband is very heartbroken about my mom and her fakeness. He says she will never get anything from him, that is as much as revenge goes here. My husband and sisters talked to my MIL about her comment and made her understand why it was very out of it. As many of you assume, she is a very loving mom from a loving family. My dad and brother keep apologizing for any role they played on this. My dad can't believe it went to this point. He says it is still surreal for him. Regardless, they support me no matter what and say they are willing to help me fight whatever ridiculous fight my mom or Cider put. Update 2. December 17, 2021. I want to thank the lovely messages and encouraging words. I decided to post it here so it wouldn't be deleted like the original was. Things are great and horrible at the same time, but I'm trying to remain positive about everything. My brother and his wife sat my nephews down and explained that Grandma was ill and tried to hurt Annie Diamond and the little cousin. They explained Grandma would not be part of their lives anymore, but that doesn't mean she doesn't love them. It was really hard, but the kids are smart. They were also told Other and is no longer in their life, but they don't care because they dislike her, not because of me alone, simply because she is not exactly great with them either. My mom lost it when she was informed and started claiming she had rights and she will get to see her grandchildren. My dad is looking for a permanent place but will stay with us until January, mainly due to my brother's MIL coming to visit it and we having the space. He is really sad and has called divorce lawyers who have already moved bank stuff, etc. He has been getting countless emails, messages and calls from my mom, but he doesn't reply to anything. The lawyer told him to not block her right now. He considered maybe forgiving her, but I got a huge spike on my blood pressure a couple days after my last post here because she decided to come to my place with my sister. My sister had never been to my home. My mom knew I didn't want her there, but I guess that doesn't matter anymore. The cleaning lady let them in since she knows my mom, and I haven't had the time to inform her. She was not allowed to come in anymore. I was just coming from some errands and I saw the car this time. I didn't get in. I called all of my relatives and my SIL husband's sister was the one closer to me. She confronted them and told them either they leave if I call the police on them for trespassing. They left and I started feeling bad. We went to the doctor and they told me all the excitement was not good and I needed to start relaxing or it would hurt the baby. My dad went home with my brother, uncle, and my husband and took every single thing he could think of. My husband says my sister was there too and she kept screaming at him that he destroyed her family. My dad told my mom and sister they almost killed the baby and he also doesn't want to talk to any of them again. My sister kept sending messages to my brother begging for help, but is not happening. I am devastated and very sad for my nephew since he is losing so much of his family because his mother has some wacky ideas, but it is what it is. As per the custody and grandparent rights, my mom wants to throw around so much. My lawyer sent her a letter stating she caused harm to my health and the baby, and if she keeps harassing me it will become an official legal matter. My brother also sent her a letter using her harassing of me. Both mom and sister have refused to go to therapy. They might be mentally ill, but with all of this coming to light, it is obvious they have been in agreement for a long time. I will focus on spending the holidays with my family, being healthy, and going to therapy. Update 3, March 30th, 2022. Hi, I've received some requests for an update and had a little time, so decided it could be a good fit. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart from your comments, messages, and every advice, because I feel we owe you for being even more paranoid than we were being. A couple people asked me what method we used to know the gender of the baby. I announced it after 20 weeks. The reason for waiting so long is we have experienced a loss in the past which we were preparing to announce when it happened, and we wanted to be sure and have a safety feeling about the announcement. Also, we were naive enough to think it would be special for my mom, and you were right. After posting, I handed it to my husband and he read your messages, comments, and advice for some days. We swiped the house and thankfully found nothing but felt extremely unsafe, so we went to a hotel with my dad. But then we realized there was a tracker on my fur baby's vest. He is a very small dog and gets cold a lot, so he has a funny vest. Never in a million years would I have thought of looking there, but we discovered the tracker when my dad walked him around the hotel area and my sister came and asked him about me and reconciliation. I was really upset, so we decided to move. Thankfully we can afford it. We are renting at the moment and also renting out our place, so is not just empty. I used to love that house, but now I feel as ruined and tainted somehow. Sadly, my parents' house feels the same, and not only for me. We all, brother, husband, dads, and even my husband's family, changed our numbers, got new electronics, and I fight employers, friends, police. We also started therapy and family therapy. My dad and brother feel extreme guilt over the situation, even if I have truly forgiven them, but we are healing as a unit. My sister and mom insist they are not wrong and they don't need therapy. My dad made a new will in which my sister's son gets a trust fund and some inheritance, but my sister gets a token amount. He is truly done with her. I was feeling bad for her, but I decided to focus my energy on my baby. She is here and we are blessed. It is not the experience I thought of since my mom is not around me anymore, but so many friends and family members have truly surprised us. By the end, we were so paranoid we started testing some people we were unsure of, telling them I was going into labor. It worked like a charm. We discovered who was still feeding info to my mom and sister and cut them out. The rest understood when we explained the reasoning. My ex, whom my friends now call Bates, went around saying the baby was his cause. We have been having a tour effort due to my undying love for him. Nobody believes him anymore, but it made my husband contact Bat's employer and tell him about all the craziness. Long story short, he was put on a suspension pending internal reviewing. I am almost positive he will be fired since they have asked us for more and more info and they seem really apologetic. My mom has tried to find us, but all the people that know of our location have gone and see with her. My dad's lawyer sent her a letter stating that due to her instability, all correspondence will be through lawyers now. It has been us and my dad because I felt so bad for him being alone. He has promised he will be fine and nothing is my fault, but I still feel awful. He has been the best babysitter, feeder, diaper changer in the universe. My nephews are loving as always, and my dad even got a visit with my sister's son. It came about because she kept making videos threatening to hurt herself if my husband didn't stop alienating her family, so my dad emailed her about seeing her son and told her he would call the police about her threat, so that seems to have stopped it. Lastly, someone brought up I gave Bats false hope. It can't be further from the truth. I spent years uncomfortable because I thought he would move on. Then after I spoke up and then met my husband, I spent such a long time fighting my sister about it. I had a very long engagement, which is why I married after my sister. I still love my mom and sister, but I choose a healthy life for me and my family over that love. I have discovered a lot of loyalty, love, and compassion through this whole thing. As strange as it may seem, I feel lucky it all exploded. Hopefully it is not much of a ramble. Big hugs for me. Update 4. June 25th, 2022. We officially moved into a new house with my dad moving into the guest house. We had many discussions both in and outside therapy, and we decided that while it would be good for him to be with us, we all still need our space. We are still renting out the old place and will be deciding what to do later. My dad has the grandchildren all together about 3 times a week now. He still has to see my sister's kids separately since she refused to let him take the kid, unless she knew where he lived, which to be fair is a normal thing, but considering she is crazy, we don't want her close. My mom complained to the lawyers about how unfair it is. My dad still gets to see all grandchildren, but there is nothing she can do about it. About a month ago, my dad told me he had a confession and my stomach started hurting. Dear reader. He pays for my nephew's sister's kids' schooling and babysitting, which is why she still allows him to see him. He felt so guilty for hiding it and didn't want to keep secrets. I assured him it was nothing wrong and to please don't feel bad. On Mother's Day, my dad got an email with a link to an Instagram account in which they made a sad video about my mom and how most of her family has abandoned her and how much of a saint my sister is for being there for her. It was really pathetic and enraged me, but I just sent it to the lawyer. Dad officially filed for divorce in May and the process is still ongoing. My mom insists he is wrong, but my dad said he'd rather drink bleach than go back to her, so I think that is final. My brother and husband took my dad out for Father's Day and had a blast. My sister posted many things that day, but they managed to block my dad from even learning about it because we wanted him to enjoy it. They also did a camping trip with the kids, aka went to a hotel, got a suite, and put a tent in the middle area for the kids and a little tippy for baby. Honestly, having baby is one of the best things that have happened to me, and seeing my husband being the amazing father I knew he would be makes me so happy. It is tiring, but we have so much support. I feel grateful beyond anything because I have my rocks on my side. My SILs, and I now get to have a little calendar on sharing things. All the kids get to do things that are age appropriate, and if they want to, we want to let them all know they do not need to hang out with people they dislike and their voices matter. Right now they are all obsessed with baby and say they are her protectors, and we get little get-togethers, brunch, etc. Honestly, having family time is now a pleasure and not a headache without my sister there. I know it's wrong to say, but she just sucks the positivity out of the room. My MIL also loves having time with baby and stays in the guest room about once a week. She asked politely and said she didn't want to take baby for sleepovers or anything. I feel respected and heard by her, and yes, it broken down sometimes because I miss my mom a lot. I miss the mom I had or thought I had, not the one that told me I would be a terrible mother or was a hateful woman. My therapist says it's a marathon and to focus in the good. Speaking about good, Bates was terminated. Not only that, but his reputation in his industry was not only damaged but nuclear level damage. So was his brother's. But because Bill is not in an industry that cares as much about reputation, he still has his job as far as I know. Vate sent me a 12-page double-sided seems single-space letter about how hurt he is. I am denying him what's his, and my husband is so threatened by him that he had to go and destroy him professionally because he would not be able to destroy anything else I said. Seemed because I didn't read it, my lawyer did and gave me a summary. I also heard from the grapevine. No, I don't ask people, they just tell me, since they know he is stalking me, that the mother of his children moved and he didn't even care and said it was for the best. This man doesn't even care about his kids and wants to play family with baby and me. Sadly, he won't be homeless or anything because mommy already let him move back in with her, so I doubt he will learn anything from this. Not the flashiest of updates, but just what is. Oh, and my husband burnt or donated every single item given to him by my mom or my parents with my dad's blessing. He says life is too short to give her space in his life, even with memories. Now for some comments. Comment. I am really glad you are coming through all that with the good bits of your family very intact. I don't really get the firing part. I get Bates as a bad dude, but has he ever done anything that has relevance or a connection to his work? Opie. Without giving up his industry, it is a very close-knit one, and when you get a bad reputation it suns you. He was thought as a nice but distant in his feminist single dad before this. He even told some coworkers I was with him for longer than we were. Comment. Up, I am reading your full post from the best of Reddit at 1:30 a.m. from my home in India, and I have respect and sorry for what you faced, and I hope your child grows to be healthy and nice, as you both. Also, I hope this whole fiasco is over soon, and you can be back with your mother after her fantasy is over. Respect for you, keep fighting. Opie. That is a lovely sentiment, but I will never talk to my mom again. I miss her a lot, I cry a lot, she is not the person I thought she was, and baby deserves the best family we can get, and my mom is not part of it. It breaks my heart, but I need to protect baby. Update 5. June 30th, 2024. Long time no see. I have some updates for you, but first I want to thank you for all your comments and messages. Every time I log into this account, I am bombarded by mostly positive things, and I appreciate it a lot. I am unsure if anybody will read this, but for those who want updates, they are mainly good ones. With that out of the way, let's get to it. My parents are divorced now after many fights and tantrums from my mother. She kept the house and got a bulk payment, but that is it. My dad is like a new man, and we are all so happy for him. A little throwback: when all the drama happened, we did not fire our cleaning lady. This is a woman that had been helping my husband's family for decades, and I was very stressed out about her being out of work because of what my crazy family did. Also, we are not slobs, and she is not polishing floors on her knees or anything like that. In any case, my dad spoke with her and told her she was on paid vacation, and until we had a new house to please wait for us if she wanted, but she was absolutely not fired. She was really happy about it, and so was her family. My dad started to get food and stuff from them from time to time because they were so thankful about what he was doing for them. Well, she has a sister who owns her own nail salon, and my dad is dating her now. She is a very lovely woman and has grown children, so she understands the dynamics happening. Sometimes he has been very clear he is not moving or marrying, and she is pleased with that because she likes her independence. My mother nearly had a stroke when she heard about his new relationship and kept saying it was a late midlife crisis and he had to resort to be a sugar daddy. This is obviously what I heard because I don't have any contact with her, but last I heard she is having a hard time. She is struggling because she was never good at budgeting and relied on my dad, had to put a stop on ridiculous purchases. My sister is also struggling because my dad is not helping her with money anymore. You'll see he was willing to keep helping for the sake of my nephew, but then things got very rough. My nephew started calling my kid an affair baby, how she is not with her real dad, called my other nephews delusional, and during a birthday party, he even pushed one of my nephews on my husband's side, saying they were not my kids' cousins, only he was. The kids were perplexed and so confused, but immediately told an adult about it. My dad spoke with him, but he kept repeating it. He spoke with my sister, and she said she could do nothing to prevent a kid from telling the truth, and didn't all kids tell always the truth? He told her until there is a change he is cutting them off. She panicked and cried, but she is also super stubborn, so now my nephew goes to public school because my husband made my dad cut them off. Bates, well, he is still unemployed. I know I was cryptic about it, but he was in an industry related to vulnerable women, and some of it related to stalking. Irony much, that's why he was fired. The organization he was in didn't want this to splash on them. I have received 2 more very long handwritten rambling letters from him, and since he only has my lawyer's address, guess who has the honor of receiving, reading, and file those ramblings? I love my lawyer, and he is a champ. Apart from that, in the gossip, I have not had bad issues related to him except for one. I was at the grocery store and a random woman came over to ask if my kid was Bat's baby. I was speechless and shocked. I asked her what she was on, and she said he has a photo of us on his profile and I should be ashamed of myself for hurting such a good man. Turns out he is still going by the narrative my kid is his, and I loved him so much. That is all old news. But at the end, what shocked me the most was the pic comment. This is not a photo that has been public or anything like that. It was sent to a family group once, and that is it. I told my husband immediately, and he was enraged but composed. We decided to smoke out the rat. Long story short, it was my dad's 2 sisters feeding info to my mom. My dad was so disappointed but also had no doubts cutting them off. They are still begging him to talk to them again. My brother and his family are doing great. We see them a lot and have been in some family holidays since the last update. They are also in C with my mom and sister. My SIL is actually super happy about it because it turns out she was not a fan of our mom but kept the peace. My in-laws keep being lovely as well. We allow a male overnight babysitting now too, and she is over the moon with it. Sometimes she has all her grandchildren under the same roof, and they are all delighted to be with her. She is a former flight attendant, so their favorite game is to pretend airplane. Overall, they love her, and we know she is good without kids, so we not worry she had to make her socials private because my mom kept stalking her. I am sure she is extremely jealous, but she made her own bed. Lastly, my husband keeps me sane. Whenever little things come up, we are thinking if we should have another baby or maybe adopt one. We are still undecided. We have a great support system and the privilege to have these conversations. I still miss my mom a lot. I sometimes cry when I realize there are milestones I can no longer share with her, but she is a bad person and the safety of my family matters more. Last fun fact, this Father's Day they actually went camping. It went great apart from the mosquito bites and some ill-placed sunburns. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Before we start, If you're enjoying this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's continue. Discovered my wife's secret Hawaii trip with her lover. So I planted drugs in their luggage, tipped off the DEA, and watched them get arrested at the airport. She got 5 years in prison, he got 15. The morning was chaotic because our alarm clock didn't go off thanks to a power cut overnight. This meant my wife and I had to hurry to get ready for work. She was in more of a hurry than I was since my job starts at 9 a.m. and it's just a 15-minute drive from our house. Before heading out to work, my wife usually checks her email, but she was rushing and forgot to shut down her computer. As I was about to turn it off, I noticed an email she received a few days ago with the subject line, "Aloha to a great time." Curiosity got the best of me and I opened it, only to discover that my wife was planning a trip to Hawaii with another man while I would be away on a 2-week business trip. This revelation hit me hard and left me feeling devastated. Let me provide some background. Kathy, my wife, and I were introduced by mutual friends over 12 years ago who believed we'd hit it off. Turns out we both valued fitness and a healthy lifestyle. Kathy worked as a yoga instructor and personal trainer, while I pursued a career in marketing at a mid-sized company, aspiring for growth. I have a passion for the outdoors, often engaging in activities like hiking, mountain biking, and running. We shared many hobbies and looked good as a couple. Kathy is 5 feet 6 inches tall with long brown hair, brown eyes, and an attractive figure. I stand at 6 feet 3 inches with blonde hair, blue eyes, and an athletic physique. Was it love at first sight? No, but we developed a strong friendship that later blossomed into romance. Took a couple of years, but we eventually tied the knot, and I believed we were happy until now. However, after reading this email, I realized our marriage was facing serious challenges. Apparently, Kathy and this guy, Gary, had been secretly planning a romantic getaway for some time now despite knowing about my upcoming business trip, which was a significant opportunity for me and the company. She went ahead with it. I was gearing up for a 2-week business trip with some colleagues to secure big accounts. Landing these deals could mean a promotion and a nice pay raise, but now all I could focus on was this email in front of me. I started digging into her other emails to learn more about this Gary. Turns out she had kept all their correspondence neatly filed under trips. Convenient, right? Kathy isn't tech-savvy, but I'm on computers all the time, so navigating through was easy for me. It was clear she'd been involved with this guy for the past 6 months. But why? I couldn't see any obvious signs of unhappiness. Our bed life was good, and we enjoyed each other's company. What led her into the arms of another man? My mind was racing, but I had to head to work. Before leaving, I made sure to copy all the emails onto a thumb drive to examine them later and maybe figure out more about Gary and why she did this. After shutting down her computer, I rushed off to work, consumed by thoughts of her and Gary. As I processed the shock of this revelation, anger welled up inside me, and I craved revenge on a grand scale. I'm not typically one for violence or seeking payback, but this situation was different. Her betrayal was unforgivable. I briefly pondered when and where it all began but decided it didn't matter. What I did want was to learn more about Gary and how I could make his life miserable. I didn't wish harm on him, although the thought did cross my mind. Instead, I wanted them both to experience a very public humiliation. However, I still needed to plan carefully with 6 weeks ahead. I closed my office door at work and brainstormed. I needed more intel on Gary and the specifics of their trip. Then, an idea struck me on how to sabotage their plans and expose their affair in a way she couldn't deny. It was a bold plan, but I was determined to make her face the consequences. Throughout the day, I managed to get some real work done, but my mind kept circling back to my scheme. When it was time to leave, I stayed back in my office for over an hour, jotting down what I needed and how to get it. I also noted the risks involved in my plan. If things went south or I got caught, it could mean serious trouble, possibly even jail time, but I was willing to take that chance. To gather more intel on Gary, I knew I needed access to Kathy's email and computer. I considered downloading software to crack her passwords, but quickly realized it could leave a digital trail. If I wanted to pull this off without getting caught, I needed to be careful, so I had to find a way to get what I needed without leaving any trace back to me. Over the next few days, I bought some disposable cell phones from different stores, paying with cash, and got a small laptop that I could use at places with free Wi-Fi. This way, my actions couldn't be traced back to my workplace or home. I also purchased several wireless video cameras and bugs to place around the house, hoping to catch her bringing this a-hole into our bed for some extramarital fun. The idea made my blood run cold, but maybe they'd talk about their upcoming trip, giving me the info I needed for my plan. As time went by, I tried my best to act normal around my wife so she wouldn't suspect that I knew about her affair. It was tough, but after a few weeks, pretending became second nature. I'd smile at her lovingly while secretly seething at the thought of her being with another guy. I guess I missed my true calling as an actor. During this time, I reached out to some old friends using one of the disposable phones I bought, ensuring there'd be no connection back to me. My first call was to a college buddy I hadn't spoken to in over 14 years. Steve was a real party animal back then, the guy to go to for a good time. "Hey Tank, have you been, man?" At first, Steve didn't remember, but after some reminiscing about our college parties, it all clicked for him. "Hey Hank. Yeah, it's all coming back to me now. Those were some good times. Huh? What have you been up to lately?" I quickly filled him in on what I've been doing since college. He shared that things hadn't quite turned out the way he hoped, but he's hanging in there. So what's the reason for this call? It wasn't just about reminiscing. I had to be cautious about bringing up the real issue, so I suggested meeting in person. "Look, I need some help, and I thought you might be the guy for the job. How about we grab lunch and chat about it?" He hesitated for a moment, then agreed, saying, "Sure thing. Anything for an old college buddy." We set up a meeting spot away from my workplace but close to his for a few days later. I was really counting on his help as time was ticking away, and I didn't have anyone else to turn to. I'd also set up cameras and bugs in the bedroom and living room, thinking those were the spots where they'd likely talk and do other stuff. After the first week, nothing significant showed up on the recordings. I started to think maybe they were meeting at his place as it might be less risky for their affairs, but the following week told a different story. It appeared she brought Gary over to our place one late morning, and they spent over 2 hours having closeness in every possible position. It disgusted me to watch, but I had to endure it to see if they'd discuss their trip or reveal any useful details. Yet they didn't. The next week, I checked the cameras again and saw they were back, but this time not for closeness. They just talked about their upcoming trip, giving me the info I needed, the flight number and departure time. Listening in, I could hear the excitement in my wife's voice as they planned. I was beyond furious, even considering harming them, but I pushed the thought aside. I wanted them both to suffer for a long time. This revenge was going to haunt them for life, even into their graves. I imagined a day when my soon-to-be ex-wife, old and gray, lay on her deathbed, and I would come in with a smile, leaning over to tell her how I had ruined her Hawaii trip. I'd stand up, flash a smile at her as she gazed at me in shock, then turn and walk away. Now more determined than ever to succeed, I still had one risky task left to tackle. I finally learned more about Gary. He and my wife both work as personal trainers at the same health club. Turns out he has a habit of pursuing other men's wives, but that's about to hit a rough patch. He lives close to the club in a small condo complex, so I decided to do some surveillance. I took a day off from work, telling my boss I had personal matters to handle before our business trip. With a digital camera equipped with a powerful zoom, I observed his place for a few hours. It was a basic 2-bedroom complex, and it seemed his neighbors were away during the day for work, with no security cameras in sight. This worked well for my covert plans. During my meeting with Steve, I felt anxious about what I had to ask him. It was the riskiest part of my plan, but if I could get what I needed, it would be worth it. When I spotted Steve entering the restaurant, I waved him over to the table where I was seated. It was tucked away in the back, and the place was fairly quiet with only a few customers having a late lunch. As he approached, he greeted me with a casual, "Long time no see, bro." I wasted no time and got straight to the point. Steve looked worse for wear, like he could have been an extra on the Walking Dead show. I wanted to keep it brief. If he couldn't assist me, I'd have to seek help elsewhere. We reminisced about our college days and the epic parties Steve used to throw. He was quite the party animal back then, but it seemed to have taken its toll on him. He appeared much older than his actual age, at least 15 years older. I needed to get to the point, so I asked him directly why I had invited him to see if he or someone he knew could help me get some party favors for a private event I was planning. I passed him a list and asked if he could assist me. I assured him I'd compensate him for his help. Steve glanced at the list, initially looking surprised, but then he grinned. He agreed to help without hesitation, saying it sounded like an exciting party. He even asked if he could bring along an old college buddy. Relieved, I agreed as long as he could get me the items on the list. I told him once he had everything, I'd provide the details for the party. Steve requested upfront cash to purchase the items, so I handed him an envelope with several thousand inside. He remarked on the scale of the party and confirmed the cash was more than enough. We arranged to meet the following week for the exchange, and I gave him my new cell phone number in case of any issues. With everything settled, we left the restaurant. It was crucial that everything went smoothly as my wife and her lover were set to depart the day after I left for my trip. 2 weeks before my departure, I met with Steve, and he managed to procure everything I needed. All I needed to do was hide these items until the timing was perfect. 3 days before my trip, I left work early and checked my wife's packed suitcase. It was all set for her trip, the cheating woman. Carefully, I slipped a few surprises into her bag as a parting gift. I made sure to hide them well, so she wouldn't discover them while packing or unpacking. I wasn't aiming for her to find them anyway. Then I embarked on another risky step, breaking into Gary's place. I knew his work schedule, so that wasn't a problem. However, I had never attempted anything like this before. I bought a lockpick set and learned from a book I found online. It's amazing what you can buy on the internet. I practiced on various locks at home and work, and I became quite skilled at it. Feeling confident, I told my boss I needed an extended lunch break and headed to Gary's condo with my lockpick set. I was surprised at how quickly I managed to pick the lock, getting inside his home in just over a minute. I focused on speed because I wanted to carry out my plan swiftly and leave no evidence behind. Wearing latex gloves, I headed straight to his bedroom where I found his packed bag ready for the trip. Just like I did with my wife's suitcase, I added a few travel gifts to his bag to make their trip memorable. After that, I went to the kitchen and found a can of coffee. I emptied the coffee into a mixing bowl, placed some packets at the bottom of the can, refilled it with coffee, and put it back where I found it, making sure everything looked undisturbed. With everything back in place, I left Gary's place and returned home, but I still had one more thing to do. A couple of days before my trip, I contacted a friend who had a cousin working with the TSA at the airport. I had all the details about my wife and Gary's flight. Now it was about getting this info to the right person without revealing its source. So, I contacted my friend but had to be careful about how I explained where I got the info from. "Jack, I need a favor, but keep this info confidential," I said. I gave him the flight details and Gary's name but didn't mention my wife's. Jack agreed to pass it on to his cousin discreetly. I also got rid of all the cameras and bugs so no one could find them, and I left some surprises in Kathy's car to add to her troubles. The day before my trip, I decided to have a little fun at my wife's expense. When I got home from work, I sat down looking upset. My wife noticed and asked, "What's wrong?" "Something went down at work today." "Yep, the clients we were supposed to meet pulled the plug on the meetings. So now I won't be jetting off on that trip, and the company's missing out on a big opportunity to grow," I joked. I saw the shock and worry on her face. That's when it hit me. She was probably scheming to get me out of town, so she and Gary could have their Hawaii getaway. Can't they still send you and try to smooth things over with those clients? You and your team have put in so much time and effort on this project. It'd be a real shame to see all that hard work go to waste, she said, trying to guilt-trip me. That made me furious. How could she talk about shame when she had none? Her and Gary were about to pay big time. I chuckled and reassured her. "Just kidding, honey. The trip's still on, no worries." Relief washed over her face, and she grinned. "You had me going there for a second. So are you all packed?" "Yep, just got to toss a few things in my carry-on, and I'm good to go. You won't miss me too much while I'm away," Will you? Do you have any plans? Maybe a girls' night out or something? Nah, nothing like that. I'll just be here waiting for my dear hubby to come back, she said. God. I almost burst out laughing at that, but I was too mad. The next day, my wife drove me to the airport and dropped me off. I gave her a long, passionate kiss, my hands caressing her sweet face. It would be the last kiss I'd ever give her, so I wanted it to be memorable. I joined the rest of the group, and we boarded the flight. It was a smooth ride, and once we landed and checked into the hotel, I called home using the hotel room phone. No one picked up, so I left a message. Honey, I did something dumb. I left my phone in the cab and won't be able to call you until I get it back or get a new one. If you need me, leave a message at the front desk, and I'll call you later. I hadn't actually forgotten my phone. I just needed an excuse not to take her calls. The next day arrived, and I made sure to turn off my phone. I wouldn't be disturbed during my meeting with clients. When I got back to my hotel room, I checked for messages, but there were none. So, I turned on my phone and found no messages from my wife or anyone else. Well, maybe they managed to pass through airport security. The following day, the meetings went even better than the first ones, and we returned to the hotel early. There were several messages waiting for me on the hotel room phone. One was from my wife, another from her father, and a third from a DEA agent, which made me smile. I then checked my cell phone and saw several messages waiting for me. I listened to the messages on the hotel phone. The first was from my wife, and she was crying. Baby, it's me. I'm in big trouble, and I really need you. Please come home now, please. After that, all I heard was crying. The next message was from my soon-to-be ex-father-in-law. Hank, your wife has been trying to get in touch with you. She's been arrested and needs you home now. Please give me a call when you have a chance. The final message was from a DEA agent named DeFranco. He identified himself as Agent DeFranco and wanted to discuss my wife's arrest on pills charges. He provided his contact information and some other details. I was thrilled and couldn't stop smiling, but I had to maintain a serious demeanor around my colleagues. Everything had gone according to plan so far, but I still needed to act surprised and shocked to avoid suspicion that I was involved. The next morning, I contacted my boss and informed him of a serious family issue without providing specifics. He agreed to let me leave the meetings temporarily to handle the emergency, but stressed the importance of returning promptly to finalize deals with the clients. I caught the first flight back home, and upon landing, I retrieved my lost cell phone and called my father-in-law. What's happening? I received your message, but I can't believe it. Kathy was arrested on pills charges? She does not use any substance. Did this happen at the health club? I knew exactly where the incident occurred. No, she was traveling with a friend to Hawaii, and they were stopped at security where they found some illegal things on her and her friend. Her father said in a low voice, sounding embarrassed. Hold on a second, just hold on. She told me she was going to be home and didn't have any plans. Who was this friend she was going to Hawaii with? I bet one of her girlfriends talked her into going and got her into all this mess, I replied. Her father hesitated for a moment. I know it was with someone else. The important thing to remember here, Hank, is that she's in trouble and needs your help. She loves you, and I know you love her too, he said. I interrupted him. What aren't you telling me, Dad? Who was she traveling with? I yelled into the phone, feeling a bit too satisfied. There was silence. Then he cleared his throat. She was traveling with a man, Gary. Somebody. He has been arrested too, he admitted. Once again, I interrupted him. So you're telling me my wife, your daughter, was flying off to Hawaii with another man while I was out working hard to earn a living, and she gets busted for pills possession? Is that what you're telling me? I demanded. Yes. I'm afraid that's what I'm telling you, he responded. I took a long pause. Okay, I need to talk to her lawyer and then this DEA agent, and after that, I'm going to talk to her. We'll see what happens next. But she better have a darn good explanation for why she was about to go to Hawaii with another man and had substances with her. I thought to myself. I hung up on her father before he could respond. When I got home, I saw there were over 20 messages waiting, so I began to play them back. The first one was for me about losing my cell phone. The next few were from Kathy, hoping I would check our messages while I was on my business trip. Several were from her father, and the rest were from her lawyer asking me to get in touch as soon as possible. I called the lawyer, and since he wasn't in the office at that time, I made an appointment for the following morning. Next, I called the DEA agent, DeFranco, and agreed to meet him at his office downtown later that afternoon. I quickly got cleaned up and headed out, all the while trying to think if I had covered my tracks so none of this could come back to me. Soon, I found myself in what I can only assume was an interrogation room. Agent DeFranco walked in carrying a folder. "Glad you were able to stop by and see me," he said. "I have some questions about your wife that I was hoping you could answer," he said, looking at something in the folder. "Listen, my wife isn't involved with substances. As far as I've known her, she's never taken anything illegal. Honestly, she doesn't even drink that much. This has to be a big misunderstanding or a mistake. She's a yoga instructor, for crying out loud. Why would she be involved with illegal things?" I was trying to act a bit, but Agent DeFranco didn't look up. People make all sorts of dumb choices for all sorts of dumb reasons. "Now, did you know your wife was going to Hawaii with this guy, Gary? She told us he was just a friend, but Gary claims they were going for a romantic getaway. So, do you know Gary? Were you aware that your wife was having an affair? Did you have any idea about the substances now?" He was staring at me intensely. I took a deep breath to steady myself. "I didn't know any of this until I spoke with my father-in-law this morning, but I still can't believe it. She must have been manipulated into this. She's too good of a person to get mixed up in something like this." I didn't want to push it too far. I figured this guy could spot a liar right away, so I had to tread carefully. "Well, I guess you didn't know. Hate to break it to you, buddy, but your wife was cheating on you with an illegal seller of all people. We've already searched his place and found even more pills, and soon we'll be searching your home too. You can either cooperate and let us in, or we'll just get a search warrant. Either way, we'll be searching your place soon." I knew her lawyer would advise against it, but this was about protecting myself, and it would look better if I wasn't trying to hide anything, so I agreed. Soon, I was back at the house with dozens of DEA and FBI agents along with a couple of their dogs going through everything. They took a few things, including some pill containers she kept in the medicine cabinet. The following day, during my meeting with Kathy's lawyer, I briefed him on my talk with DeFranco and the search. He wasn't pleased. "If you're approached by any law enforcement, I want to be there before you say anything." "Got it." I nodded, feeling irritated. "Let me be clear," I told him. "I want to know everything that led to my wife's arrest. All I know is she was about to fly to Hawaii with this guy, Gary. If either of you wants my help, someone better start explaining how this happened." "Do I make myself clear?" He responded, "I can't discuss your wife's case with you." That's when I walked out. Next, I headed to the jail where she was held and requested to see her in a room with other inmates meeting with family or lawyers at round metal tables, bolted down stools. She came in wearing an orange prison jumpsuit, no makeup, her hair pulled back into a tight, messy ponytail. She appeared exhausted, like she hadn't slept for days. "Oh, baby, I'm so relieved you're here," she sobbed. I was going to hug her, but a guard intervened, saying there could be no physical contact. This only made her cry harder. "It's okay, honey. We'll figure this mess out. Right now, I need to hear your side of the story. How did you end up about to go to Hawaii with this guy?" I asked calmly. Her tears increased. "Hank, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So it's true? You were having an affair with this guy, Gary, a pill seller? How could you? Weren't you happy with me? Don't you love me? I just don't get it, him, you, and the pills. What were you thinking?" I paused, knowing she didn't have an answer. "Please believe me when I say I've always loved you. Can you forgive me?" she pleaded with me. I looked at her for a while, then spoke up. "Maybe I could have forgiven you, but you broke my heart completely, so I can't forgive you. When I leave here, I'm getting a divorce lawyer and changing all the locks on the house. I'm sending all your stuff to your parents' place because I want to erase every trace of you from my home. You're out of my life now. I don't want anything to do with you, and tell your lawyer not to use me as a character witness because I won't say anything good about you. Farewell, Kathy." I wish you the best." She was sobbing and pleading for me to stay, saying she needed me. Without looking back, I headed home and began packing her belongings. The next day, I hired a locksmith to change all the locks. Then I scheduled a security company to install a high-quality system the following week. In just a few days, I had most of her things packed and ready to be sent to her parents' house. I received several calls from Kathy, but I ignored them all. I had no interest in talking to her. Eventually, I went back to work, and we successfully signed those important clients we had been chasing. This led to my promotion and a salary increase. Divorcing Kathy was smooth. It was a straightforward split with no spousal support, and she had to cover her legal fees from her pills arrest. Despite her attempts to reach me, I wanted to keep my distance. She didn't go to trial due to overwhelming evidence, and her lawyer advised her to take a plea deal for a shorter sentence. She wasn't pleased. On the other hand, Gary fought hard to prove his innocence but ended up with a 15-year sentence, while Kathy got 5 years. It was the day of Kathy's sentencing, and she wanted to meet me one last time before going to court. I agreed, and we met at her lawyer's office an hour before her court appearance. She appeared teary when she looked at me. "Hank, I just want you to know that Gary meant nothing to me. It's you I've always loved and will continue to love. I'm truly sorry for hurting you like this. It wasn't supposed to turn out this way. I hope you can forgive me someday," she said, almost in tears again. "Kathy, I need to understand one thing. Why did you do it? Were you bored? Did I not satisfy you in bed? Was it the thrill of doing something wrong and getting away with it? What was it that led you to do this and ruin our marriage?" I asked with sadness. She looked at me. "I honestly don't know why. Maybe it was the excitement of doing something forbidden, but I've always loved you. I guess you didn't love me enough, or else you wouldn't have done this," she replied. "Kathy, I hope this is the last time I have to deal with you. I don't want to see or hear from you ever again. I want you to spend your time in prison thinking about what you've lost because you craved excitement. I bet you'll have some thrilling experiences in there once those ladies notice you." She began crying again, but this time out of fear. Over the next few years, the company grew, and I climbed up to become a VP. We expanded our business, opening an office in New York, and I was selected to lead it. This meant selling my house, moving to Manhattan, and getting an apartment. I received a few letters from Kathy early on, but I sent them back without opening. That part of my life was over, and I was ready to move forward. It's been 7 years now, and life in New York has been good. I'm still single, and the dating scene in New York is treating me well. I was still single, dating a different woman every few months. I had no interest in getting married again, and risking betrayal once was more than enough. While sitting in my office, I got a call from the lobby, and my assistant Amy came in. She said, "There's a woman downstairs who wants to speak with me. She claims her name is Kathy." I paused for a moment, then told her to send Kathy up but to have 2 security guards nearby. I also gave Amy something to do for me. I wrote it down and handed it to her. "Call me a few minutes after you bring her in," I said. Amy read what I wrote and smiled. A few minutes later, Kathy was in my office. She looked at least 10 years older and had gained some weight, not in a flattering way. Her once beautiful long brown hair now showed some gray and was faded. I noticed the bags under her sadly looking eyes. Her clothes were stylish but conservative and seemed a bit outdated. I looked at her feeling nothing. No love, no hate, not even pity. I was just emotionally empty. "So, Kathy, what brings you here?" "Hank, I was hoping to talk to you." I felt the urge to explain what happened to me. Honestly, I had no clue about the substances, and I still don't know how they ended up in my bags. Gary must have sneaked them in without my knowledge. I'm not into substances, never have been. "Please believe me, I'm begging you," Kathy pleaded with me. "Kathy, you destroyed our marriage for a fling and made our whole relationship a lie. Why should I trust you now? Why did you go out of your way to find me just to tell me another lie? You don't get it. I love you. I still do. I want us to be together again. I want to make things right." Just then, my desk phone rang, and I put it on speaker. "Yes, Amy, what's up?" Stacy called to confirm that you should get 4 tickets for the opening as her parents are coming into town, and then want to meet you. Let her know that I'll buy 4 tickets. Also, find out where her parents are staying. I want to send her mother a dozen roses. I ended the call and looked back at Kathy. You were saying? Kathy was on the verge of tears. Who's Stacy? Oh, she's just someone I've been seeing lately, but you're not here to talk about my dating life. You mentioned you still have feelings for me. While I appreciate that, I want to make it clear that I don't feel the same way about you anymore. At the end of the day, your dad informed me about your arrest and your plan to go to Hawaii with Gary. When your affair came to light, I was done with our relationship. Now, please go, and I don't want to see you again. Do you understand? I listened carefully, but I had nothing to do with those pills they found. I was framed. Enough with your lies, Kathy. You cheated on me before and you're still lying now. Please leave and don't come back. I've told security to have you arrested if you return. Do you understand? She was crying silently, but she nodded. I escorted her to the door, and the security guards escorted her out. Amy came in afterward. What was that all about? Oh, that was just me saying goodbye to a chapter of my life. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Golden child sister who cut me off showed up claiming her husband was above, so I took her in and helped her file for divorce. But later I found out she was the cheater, so I testified against her. 1 year ago, my younger sister Hannah, 27F, got married to her boyfriend of 2 years, Jacob, 30M. I'm 2 years older than my sister, and we used to be close when we were kids. But after that, we just sort of drifted apart after I moved out for college. We started speaking less, and by the time both of us had graduated and had our own jobs, we led very different and separate lives, so we didn't have much to talk about. On top of that, we had a stupid fight about something 6 years back, so we have pretty much had no contact since then. In the recent past, we would get together when our family would meet for holidays and stuff, but wouldn't exactly talk to each other. To be quite frank, I don't even remember what the fight was about. I just know that it was over something really small. It wasn't like we were out to get each other but just didn't interact. And last year, after my dad passed away, I pretty much had nothing to do with my family. My mom was always closer to my sister, so they had their own thing going on, and whenever I tried to visit her, I would always feel very out of place, so I just started keeping to myself. I was also very busy with work, so I wasn't really connected with either of them. And then 2 weeks ago, Hannah showed up at my place in the middle of the night, and she begged me to let her stay with me because apparently her husband had turned out to be abusive, and she desperately needed somewhere to go. Even though we hadn't been particularly close for the last couple of years, I allowed her to stay with me. This seemed to be quite serious, and as a woman and her sister, I did not want to turn her away when she was asking me to help her out with something like this. She had shown up at my place with absolutely nothing, just some money and her cards, and kept apologizing for springing this on me, but she didn't have anybody else to rely on. I had just moved into a new apartment, so she knew that Jacob would not be able to find her here and that she was safe from him. So I instructed everybody in the family not to give my address out without my approval to anybody in case they asked, since I did not want her to be found. She told me that apparently Jacob had been controlling and manipulative right from the beginning, but after they got married, she had thought that he would stop doubting her every now and then, but he had gotten worse instead. He had forced her to cut her friends off because he did not like them and thought they were not the right kind of company for her. Recently, he had started pressuring her to even quit her job and stay at home because he thought that she needed to pay more attention to the household and her job was distracting her from doing that. But at this point, she had put her foot down, and they had been fighting about it for the last couple of weeks, and the night that she had run away, he had come home drunk and was yelling at her about the dishes in the sink that hadn't been done yet. She had said that she had been very exhausted after coming back home from work, so she hadn't found the time to do it yet. Usually he would just argue with her, but this time he decided to shove her, and that was the last straw. After he fell asleep, she decided to make a run for it and came straight to my place because she couldn't even think about any other place to go. I was a bit confused because I thought that she was close to our mother, so she could have gone to her instead. But Hannah told me that apparently she had already talked to her mother about this and her advice had been shocking. She had told her that sometimes some men act this way and she just has to deal with it because that's what married couples do. Every time they're going through stuff, she can't just admit to feed and leave because that's the easier way out, and trying to make the marriage work. It's difficult, but it's also the right thing to do, according to her. And since they're married, not just dating, it's a very serious commitment, and divorce is very complicated, so she should just stick it out with him. If things get bad, she can try marriage counseling, but my mother's advice ultimately was to stay with him in spite of whatever she was going through. I thought that was very bad advice to give to somebody who was being treated like this on a daily basis, and I told her that she didn't need to listen to our mother. This was not the way to behave, and Jacob needed to realize that, and if he hadn't realized that even after so many years of being together, there was no way he was going to change. So I told her that I would put her in touch with a friend of mine whose dad is a divorce attorney, and they could go ahead and do something about this. So 2 days after she came to my house, she filed for a divorce, and he was served within a couple of days. Both of us had blocked Jacob right after she came to my house, so he couldn't contact us. She had also spoken to my mother on the phone, and while she had been against the idea of leaving initially, after she learned that he had actually shoved her the previous night, she agreed that it was taking things way too far and she needed to leave. So we got her to block Jacob as well, and eventually nobody had any ties with him. So for almost 1 week, I had no clue about what the reality of the situation was, and I was gladly helping Hannah out, thinking that maybe this would finally help us bond and this situation would bring us closer together as a family. However, after 1 week of no contact with Jacob, I accidentally ran into him at a restaurant near my workplace. He was there with some of his colleagues, and I was there to grab lunch. I had absolutely forgotten that his office was quite close to mine, and when I spotted him, I started to leave, but he saw me there too, and he literally chased after me to catch up to me because I was trying to run away from him. But once I realized that I would not be able to outrun him and that he just kept calling my name and asking me to stop so he could speak to me, I decided to turn around and told him that I would call the cops if he tried to do anything funny. He seemed shocked by that reaction and told me that he just wanted to speak to me about the divorce. I told him that this was final and I was not going to allow Hannah to go back to him, and he started looking even more confused because he told me that apparently the divorce had been his idea. Then it was my turn to be shocked because it was not what I had been expecting. Anyway, after conversation with him, I realized that Hannah had fed me a bunch of lies and my mother had probably been in on it. He said the night that Hannah had run away from home without telling him, he had actually suggested that they get a divorce because he had found out that she had apparently been having an affair with one of her coworkers. He had spotted them together after work when he had gone to surprise her at her office, and after that, there was no way that he could stay with her. So he was the one who had suggested the divorce, and she had been very against it, and they had ended up in a fight. She wanted to work things out and said that she was willing to end the relationship with the other guy and give their marriage a second chance. But Jacob just wanted to leave because he did not think he could trust her ever again. He said that he had been suspecting that she had been having an affair for quite some time, and he had just been proven right that day. He had wanted to speak to her about it the next day and had even thought that he was going to offer to move out of the house so she could live there on her own. But when he woke up the next day, she was nowhere to be found. When he tried to contact her, she blocked him, and he couldn't get through to her in any other way either. I had also blocked him, and so had our mother, and all her friends had also blocked him, so he literally couldn't talk to anybody else. And then he received the divorce papers, and the terms of the petition shocked him because she was demanding a lot of things that he did not think she was entitled to. She was demanding an insane amount of settlement and alimony, and he thought that it was bizarre that she felt she was entitled to any of this since they had pretty much been making the same kind of money. Besides, she had been cheating on him, so that disqualified her from getting anything out of the divorce at all, and she should just count herself lucky that he was willing to move out while they were getting divorced even though he had paid the rent for the entire month. Now, to be fair, I did not know about the terms of the petition because I just put Hannah in touch with the attorney, but I hadn't actually bothered to go over the papers with her. I figured that she was in good hands. I didn't need to worry about any of that, and even if I had known about the terms of the petition and what she was demanding, I probably wouldn't have found anything wrong with it because I had believed that Hannah was the one being abused by Jacob, and so she was entitled to whatever she demanded. But after finding out what was really going on with Jacob, I started thinking differently. Initially, I refused to believe him, but then he showed me a bunch of screenshots and a lot of proof. Hannah had left her laptop back at home, which is so incredibly stupid because that allowed Jacob to get access to all the messages that she had been hiding from him so far, and I could see months and months of messages between her and the guy she had been having an affair with, and that proved Jacob's story to be true. So I was pretty confused about what to do after finding out the truth. and I just apologized to Jacob for making him run after me and embarrassing himself like that, but he told me that he just wanted to talk to me so I could explain to Hannah that he did not want anything out of the divorce and it would only be fair if she changed the terms of the petition to be more reasonable as well because he did not want any trouble and just wanted this to be over as soon as possible. So I agreed, and then when I went back home I confronted Hannah about this, and she literally denied everything, even after I told her that I had run into Jacob and he had shown me all the proof that confirmed his story. She started accusing me of trusting some random stranger over me, except that Jacob is not some random stranger. We had interacted quite a few times, and when she had first come to me, it did seem quite out of character for him because he was a very soft-spoken and gentle guy. Even though Hannah wouldn't speak to me at any family gatherings or parties, he would always be polite to me, and I just thought that it was really nice of him. I'm not saying that guys like that cannot be abusive, but from whatever conversations we have had so far over the years, it seemed unlikely that he would turn out to be like this. I really wanted to believe her, but I knew she had a penchant for manipulation and lying because that's how she used to get out of trouble in high school. So honestly, even though she is my sister, I wouldn't put it past her, and the way she got so defensive when I confronted her, it just made me even more sure what Jacob was saying was the truth and she had been lying to me through her teeth. So I told her to leave, and after a lot of fighting, she finally left. After she left, she probably went to our mother's house. Half an hour later, I received a phone call from my mother, and I could hear her crying in the background. My mother was berating me for trusting Jacob over her, but I told her that I didn't want to argue about this anymore since I was pretty exhausted, and my mother said that she did not want to speak to me anymore. I told her that I was fine with that, and since then we haven't spoken. About 2 days back, Jacob reached out to me since I had unblocked him and told me that he was collecting testimonials from everybody who knew the two of them to prove that none of the claims that Hannah was making against him were true in the slightest. And he said that my testimonial would hold a lot of value because I was literally her sister, and if even I was speaking out in his favor, it would be great. He said that there was no pressure, but I wanted to do this because I wanted to stand up for the right thing. Since apparently Hannah had refused to change the terms of the petition and since my friend's dad had refused to work with her, they switched to another lawyer and demanded the same things and even went on to claim that apparently Jacob had indeed been abusive and that was why she had resorted to cheating. So technically, according to her, this was all his fault and it was just so convenient for her. It was incredibly infuriating, and I hated the fact that she had played me for a fool in the beginning, and that was why I agreed to testify against Hannah. Yesterday, I finally spoke up in his favor while they were in their mediation session, and once that was done, I felt pretty relieved. I knew that I had done what was right, but evidently my mother and Hannah do not share my sentiments because they were more than pissed. Today, my mother actually called me up in the morning and asked me what I was thinking, testifying against Hannah, my biological sister. I told her very plainly that I did what I knew was the right thing to do, and now that it was done, there was no point in trying to fight with me over this, but my mother was not going to see sense, so she just kept yelling at me and actually even threatened me, saying that she was now going to ruin my life. It's interesting how she said that, but I know that she literally has no way to do it, and I said that she could try, but she really couldn't ruin my life even if she tried to. That's when she started crying and said that I deserved it because I had sabotaged my sister when I could have just kept my mouth shut instead of going out of my way to speak up against her. She seemed to be really upset, and I could even hear Hannah in the background screaming at my mother to hang up because apparently it was hopeless to speak to me since I couldn't think about anybody apart from myself and my false sense of superiority. Hannah was saying that apparently the only reason I had done this was to appease my overinflated sense of ego, and I thought that it was a bit extreme. So Aita for testifying against my sister in her divorce case? Edit. A lot of people have been asking me why Hannah had come to stay with me when she could have gone to her mother, and honestly, I don't know. I guess she was telling the truth about that bit, that maybe our mother had really given her bad advice and told her to stick it out with Jacob, or maybe she wanted me on her side during the divorce or something. That would be my other case, since I can't think of any other reason for her to want to come live with me after 6 years of barely even speaking to each other. Either way, I'm pretty sure it was not for no reason. She and my mother are the kind of people who do things for no reason, so I'm sure that she was either here to have me on her side during the divorce, maybe she was trying to get financial help from me, and being with me would be the best way to reconnect. I'm not sure about their reasons right now, but I'll find out eventually. Update 1. It has been 8 days since I last spoke to my mother and Hannah after the phone call. I blocked them because the things that they had said were very upsetting, and I didn't want to interact with them any further, and most of the comments said that blocking them would be the best way to go, so I took the advice that you guys gave me. But after a couple of days of that phone call, I started receiving a lot of hate mail from weird email addresses, and I figured out that this had to be them. They were ultra-specific about everything as well. They called me egoistic and selfish and said that I did not deserve to be happy, and they also said that my father would have hated me. Today, I think that was taking a tad bit too far, but honestly, I'm not even surprised that they are doing such things. I just don't understand what is the point of doing all this. It's not like sending me hate mail is somehow going to help them in the course of the divorce. I think it might even make it worse for her in case I decide to send it to, and then he can use it against her just to show the kind of person that she is. The anger is just getting to their head and making them make bad decisions. But the comment about my dad really got to me. I had been ignoring their emails, but after that one, I decided to reach out to Hannah on her work email and tell her that if she didn't stop doing this, I would make things much worse for her than I already had, and I was serious about it. So she responded to me by telling me to unblock her if I had the guts to do it instead of acting like such a coward. I don't understand what was so cowardly about blocking her. I just don't want to speak to either of them, and after what they said, I think it was perfectly fair. Anyway, I did unblock her and we got on a phone call. She told me that they had indeed been the ones behind the mail, but apparently they had their reasons for it. When I asked her what these so-called reasons were, she told me that she knew that I would get flustered and reach out to her in one conversation with me is all that she needed, because now she said that apparently I had a chance to make it up to her since the divorce negotiations were still ongoing. All I had to do was testify for her this time and say that Jacob had pressured me into testifying against her the first time around, taking advantage of our strained relationship and manipulating me with his lies. I was dumbstruck that she thought I would even consider this. For starters, for the past 6 years, we have not been on good terms, and even when I thought I would be her friend and welcome her into my home, she decided to tell me such disgusting lies about her marriage and herself. I reminded her of these things and said that if she had just not even bothered to drag me into any of this, I probably wouldn't even have testified against her. I would have just stayed out of it and not said anything, but because she lied to me, I decided to help Jacob out, and this is all her own fault, so I was not in the wrong anywhere. Since I wasn't even wrong, I did not need to make it up to her. Then I told her that she had been right about those emails bothering me, and she had been right that I would get flustered and unblock her to talk to her about it. I'll have to give her that she was able to predict correctly what was going to happen, but then I told her that after this, if she tried anything with me, then I would not hesitate in going to Jacob with these emails, helping him out even more to prove that Hannah was not a woman of strong character like she was trying to portray herself, but was a sly, manipulative, and cunning piece of work. Hannah then started screaming at me and said that I was not going to do any such things, and if I did, she was going to make sure that I paid for it. Again, I don't think she and my mother have the power to ruin my life or make me pay for it like they claim they do. They haven't even known me properly, so it's not like they can find any dirt on me. I've had a very normal life, and unlike them, I never do anything that can get me into trouble later. I like to be honest and have a clear conscience, so even if they try to dig something up, they won't be able to find any dirt on me, so all their threats, they really don't scare me. I just wished her the best of luck, ended the phone call while she was still trying to talk to me, and blocked her yet again. And this time I have made up my mind that I am not unblocking this woman to speak to her under any circumstances. I'll go see them in person and speak to them if need be, but I'm definitely not unblocking them, not after this. Update 2. So it's been a couple of days since I last spoke to my sister, and I guess if you can't find dirt on somebody, you can just make something up and then post it online. I received word from several relatives that apparently my mother and Hannah had been posting multiple stories about me to defame me, all falsified stories back from high school, so nobody could prove it either. Apparently, back when we were in high school, I was a total jerk to Hannah, and I was always jealous of the fact that she was more popular than me, so I would constantly talk crap about her and try to pull her down when she was at home while Hannah always tried to be friends with me. They made me out to be some villain and said a lot of cruel things that I don't even want to get into because it's not worth it, but I received screenshots of those posts, and as soon as I saw them, my blood literally started boiling. I can't even file a defamation lawsuit against them because it's just their word against mine right now, and I'm not even sure if this actually counts as defamation, but I sure feel pretty annoyed. I'm pretty sure I have to lose something tangible to take action against them. I think until that happens, it's just them talking crap about me online. I did send them a warning from my email because I had them blocked everywhere else and said that if they didn't take it down, I would be forced to take action. They haven't taken it down yet because I guess they're not scared enough, but I've been in talks with an attorney, and I think if we do send them a legal notice, they might stop. Anyway, I was also able to figure out exactly why Hannah had come to me all those days ago instead of going to live with Mom. I had to talk with Jacob about all of this since he had reached out to tell me that the proceedings were going in his favor so far, and he wanted to thank me for testifying against Hannah. I took that opportunity to ask him if he had any idea why Hannah had come to me, and he told me that in spite of the fact that we were not on good terms for a really long time, she always seems to speak highly of me when it comes to work. She was not wrong about that. I do have a great career ahead of me, and I don't mean to sound boastful, but I make more money than most people my age. Apparently, Jacob told me that she had been planning on starting a business, and the reason she chose to come to me might have been because she wanted to win me over the course of the divorce and then have me fund her after it was all finalized. He was guessing the only reason that she was hungry for so much money out of the divorce was because she wanted to fund her lifestyle. The guy that she had been having an affair with earlier was a pretty rich guy since he was a senior in her workplace, and he only found out about it recently. After finding this out, everything makes sense. Of course, she's after the money. I should have known right from the beginning. Anyway, everything is finally adding up now, and if she and my mom don't take down the posts as soon as possible, I'm going to have to send them a notice and actually take action against them. Whether I win the lawsuit or not, or if it has even been valid, that doesn't make a difference to me, but I'm going to try my best to get them to take it down. Update 3. Hey, so it has been 1 week since my last update, and luckily one legal notice from my lawyer was all it took for them to take it down. I guess with the way that the divorce was going in Jacob's favor, Hannah did not want to risk anything else, so they took it all down. Also, after the last update, a lot of you had asked me what exactly they had said in those posts, and at the time I did not want to get into them, but anyway, they had basically tried to make me out to be the villain of Hannah's life. They said that apparently I had bullied her throughout her life, and I would speak about her body negatively and shame her for the way she looked. For the record, I would never do that to anybody else since I have had it happen to me, and it's not very nice. I guess that's the reason they even said that, because they knew I'm a huge advocate for body positivity, and saying that about me would ruin my image. Not only that, they also said that apparently had tried to hit on all of her boyfriends back when we were living together because I couldn't stand the fact that she was getting male attention and I wasn't, and apparently that has not changed since I'm still trying to get Jacob on my side. It's so ridiculous and disgusting for them to even say that. I can't even imagine them thinking such things and then believing that it's okay to post it. Anyway, it was mostly such nasty things about me, and now they've taken it all down, so I'm okay. I was a little disappointed that they took it down so easily since I really wanted to fight it out and teach them a lesson. But oh well, I'm glad that I don't have to get into the drama now. I can just focus on my own life now and move on from all of this. Both of them are still blocked, and they are going to remain blocked for a really long time. That's the way it should be, and I know if my dad was alive today, this is the exact advice he would have given me as well. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Wife ending 10-year marriage to be with affair partner claims she wants me gone so she can have his kids. My 36M wife, 43F, told me she doesn't have feeling for me anymore, wants to get separated, and wants me to move out flat out after 10+ years in a relationship, 3 of those years married, and an 8-year-old child we have together. So why am I posting this? I think I need words or ideas from other people. I started reading this and other related subs years ago when my wife had issues with her mom, their NC now for 4 to 5 years, who really is some crazy woman with narcissistic tendencies. I don't even know if it's maybe myself who is the narcissistic idiot, I can't tell anymore. Our marriage wasn't good and happy maybe for a few months or even a full year because it was kind of fresh back then and felt different than just being parents SL partners. I married my wife despite uncovering an affair she had in 2018. I still don't know if it even was the first of its kind back then. I uncovered it by snooping her phone. I was in a very dark place at this time and actually in therapy for it. I was suffering from depression. I was distant, cold, couldn't give her the love, appreciation, and everything else she longed for. So she searched it somewhere else. She went nuclear when she found out because I invaded her privacy. At this point, she was calling me dozens of times while I sat in church, not even a religious person, and cried my soul out. When I finally answered the phone, she was just angry. She denied everything besides knowing that I was able to read chats with her AP that left absolutely no room for interpretation. When she finally gave in, she promised me to go and see and stop it and to give everything to make up for her terrible mistake. Just a few weeks later, I uncovered that she was still in contact with him. I packed some crap and confronted her, ready to spend some nights at my parents' house. She had a hysteric breakdown, panicked, vomited all over the bathroom. I stayed. I'm sorry for myself that I can't undo this decision, and I made it worse by marrying her in 2020. She recently was on a mother-child health resort. She was completely changed when she came back. Turned out she realized how broken our marriage is and how I would keep trying to get better despite her asking me for MC and other stuff. Can't deny that she's right, yet I know what was wrong with me. I never really forgot 2018, never. Changed me. I never trusted her again. I checked our place at least once a week for hints that she did something shady nonstop since 2018. I never brought up the strength to tell her, but I couldn't imagine a stable future with her because of those trust issues. I lost friends, I isolated myself more and more. I stopped trying to talk to her. In the past, if she brought up something she wanted to talk about and I told her I'd need some time to think about it or couldn't even understand the issue, she often yelled at me, physically blocked me from leaving the room, pinched me, or pulled my hair. At some point years ago, I went to just agreeing to everything or to not caring about everything to avoid conflicts. I focused on my job and after all earned twice as much as my wife. I can't deny that I was a mediocre at best husband, but there's nothing more important to me than our child. This motivated me to go on with this relationship. Just a few months ago, I uncovered very strong hints that she had an active affair that already went for months again. I gaslight myself, turned everything around over and over again, and talked myself into leaning towards "you're wrong, it's harmless." The hidden photo in her wardrobe of him and her kissing, just friendship for sure. So when we had the talk around a week ago, I brought that up. She denied it. She didn't know what I'd talk about. Keep in mind, the talk was about splitting up. There should not have been a point in lying anymore. I sent her a photo of him and her. She got angry and asked me why I invaded her privacy again. She then shrugged it away. This affair would be over since a few months, and there's no point in discussing it since we would split up anyway. I asked her why she didn't leave me sooner if everything was so bad for her. She said she needed the safety of our marriage, that she suffers from existential materialistic fears. So yeah, she wanted and wants a nest, a place to feel safe and secure in no matter what. I always had this feeling. I'm 99% sure that she hooked up with a widowed guy. His wife died 2 years ago with 2 kids that went to the same health resort. Won't get into details, but I think he's just next. I brought it up. She denied it, of course. I'm in such a confused state of mind and emotion right now. My wife wants me out and to just vanish, and on the other states that we would find a way to agree about everything like sharing money, etc., and that she thinks I'm a very good and loving father for our kid and we should find ways to maximize the amount of contact. Yet she does nothing more than telling me those expectations. It was me who went to a lawyer last week to get some quick do's and don'ts for the upcoming time. I didn't tell my wife so far. Me who currently tries to get all our materialistic and financial crap together to come up with some kind of plan. Me who faces the nearly impossible, has to find an apartment or something similar close to our current place to stay near to our kid. I don't have a car SL license and affordable after all the payments I'll face when I move out. Me who articulated a proposal on what, when and how we tell it our kid and who made an appointment with a school social worker to ask them to look out for our kid in the next time. Now I don't understand my feelings. I already agreed that we should separate, but I'm confused. I really miss the feeling of having a family even when much of it was a lie and pretending. I miss providing this for a kid and my heart is absolutely crushed by the thought of destroying our kid's world. It also feels like I just can't. I feel like giving up my existence. I fear starting from zero. I have no real friends left. I feel incredibly alone and deep inside I long for my wife despite feeling disgust, anger, jealousy, and many more negative things at the same time. We didn't touch or kiss for more than 5 weeks now and it's really hard to get over this, but I can't explain why. My rational mind knows there's no way back and it's better to look forward, but I can't. My mood swings from hour to hour. I'm wrecked. Edit. I think my priority should be moving out. From there on, I can start going for it. I already called a therapist and will have my first session in 2 weeks. I need someone to keep pointing towards the bright sides or I'll fall. I need some kind of headquarters for myself where I can set everything up that needs to follow. Makes no sense to work on my license, health, etc. while I'm not mobile and don't know where I'll live in the next months or years. As I said, I'll try to stay close to my kid, but the chance of getting something affordable and closer than in a 5 kilometers radius is very difficult. But deep inside I know I won't start what needs to be done as long as I didn't move out. I'm in the worst shape and health I have ever been. I know that my wife knows that, but I didn't take care of myself because I didn't feel like anyone would care for a long time. I need to change that. I'm aware of it, but it's hard. I brought the topic of custody up with my lawyer. She told me that me moving out won't be a problem concerning this custody. Doesn't change, we have and already had signed shared custody before marriage. My wife says she does not want to change that and thinks we'll both be happy and even better parents when we're no longer a couple. Maybe she's right, but I do trust her anymore. I asked her if she'd be willing to sign a contract about custody and she agreed, so maybe she's honest there. She got advice from a personal coach. I'm pretty sure a self-improvement kind of coach, not a professional in laws. She doesn't know that I know though. Thing is, after all that happened between us, I'd still be happy for her to improve in everything she wants to achieve, just because she's the mother of my child. But I don't know if there are any more hidden agendas behind it. It seems like she realized SL came to the conclusion / was pushed towards being convinced that I'm her main problem and everything will be fine when there's a distance between us, that this is the absolute first thing to do with all force. Leave that guy, leave him, everything else later, just go. Maybe that's the case, maybe the same goes for me, but maybe there's more. Update 1. I owe this community a lot for keeping me sane in the darkest times. So with this post I want to give something back, but I guess most people who visit this place share a similar mindset that I had back in the beginning of all this, but who knows, maybe it reaches someone. Back in 2018, I posted the first time in this sub with an alternate account. D-Day happened by chance, followed by my gut feeling, and I was utterly devastated. Much worse than the cheating, the affair, the pure sigil act of it. That my wife went for was realizing that I've been lied to, made use of, treated like an idiot. Our daughter was 3-year-old back then at the time the affair took place. I was in therapy for a depressive episode. I wasn't available for my wife. I was distant and cold, and of course she reached out to someone else. I eventually gave in when I confronted her and told her I'm about to leave. She became hysterical, panicked, puked. I took her back. I gave her a chance. I canceled my therapy when I realized that most problems I had originated in the relationship to my wife. I feared consequences. I didn't want to be alone. I especially wanted this family to work for the sake of our daughter. I married this woman 2 years later. When we left the church, she whispered to me, "Thank you for forgiving me." What happened in these 2 years? What changed for her? Nothing. I didn't tell anybody about her affair. She went on like nothing happened. I brought it up a few times in fights, that's it. What changed for me? Everything. I'm not the person I was until 2018. I lost trust completely, but I ate it all. The whole crap cake. I compensated by covertly snooping around the house multiple times a week for years, looking for hints of something shady going on. I brought my trust issues up 1 or 2 times. There's nothing to fear, dear, was the answer. I became cynic and bitter. I lost interest in hobbies and friends. I didn't trust our shared friends anymore because I didn't know who knew. I isolated myself. I focused on my job and enjoyed time alone with my daughter. I did hours over hours at work just to avoid being home with my wife. I stopped being a caring partner. I emotionally detached and just hoped for it to get better without actively pursuing this. I didn't participate in making plans for the future, which made my wife angry. I couldn't because I didn't trust my wife to stay loyal. I became a person that I hated and treated myself like that. I became unlovable. I ate the cake. This didn't stop after we married. It's 2023 now, 5, nearly 6 years after the D-Day. My wife and our kid did a 3-week health retreat in August. After they returned, my wife was extremely distant. She avoided me. I tried talking to her with no avail. It took a few weeks up until late October that she finally came forward and told me she wants me to move out. Has no more feelings left for me and doesn't want to continue the marriage relationship. When we had this talk that she planned and arranged, I wasn't even shocked. She started by kind of listing things that I did in the past that kind of pushed her towards this decision. Super old stories that I sometimes could not even remember how I reacted when our first dog was diagnosed with cancer, how I was unreliable in financial aspects, how I sometimes abandoned meetups with friends, how I would leave for hours without telling her happened maybe 3 to 4 times in 11 years, just a box of accusational memorabilias. I took the opportunity and asked her about a certain gut feeling and some hints of the past months concerning a certain guy. She denied it first. I brought it up again and presented the hints. She gave an emotionless stoic, "This is over, it doesn't matter anymore." So yeah, there was at least one other affair that lasted for months. I asked her about the widower she got to know in the retreat. I know she visited him a few weeks ago and she took her thongs with her. You readers know the routine. She wants our daughter to write him and his kids' birthday cards and bought presents for his kids. I'm certain there's stuff going on. She denies, of course she does. So what's the current status? My wife has built up a solid narrative that paints me as the bad guy. As I work full-time and she just part-time, me earning at least twice as much as her and therefore being the one who laid all major and small things over the years, I am the one who did everything wrong in her story. It's me who did the damage, and to be fair, I can't and won't even deny that. But it's an incomplete story. She misses out the affairs when she tells people. I don't know for sure, but I think so. At least one of her best friends knows about it. I overheard them talking outside our house once. My wife said, I don't know if he told his parents about my affair, but if he did, I'm sure he didn't tell them. He pushed me towards doing so. Is she right about that? I can't say. I'm as confused right now as I was for years already. I told her that now I finally knew why our last holiday felt so strange. I gave my best to make a beautiful time for us as a family, and I really enjoyed it, besides realizing that my wife went out of the hotel pretty often to call her AP, obviously. That there always was an empty signal chat in her phone's tabs, a chat with him that I had the chance to take glimpses of. It felt strange because it was no holiday that we enjoyed as a family. It was a holiday that she did without her AP. We hadn't sex for months this years. The timeline when she suddenly started initiating one evening in September probably lines up with the time she ended the aforementioned affair. I'll probably move out in December. Our daughter knows, but we agreed upon telling her that mom and dad are out of love and can't stay good parents for her as long as we live under the same roof. When we had the talk, I asked her why we wouldn't tell her that mommy fell in love with someone else, just to be transparent. Of course, she didn't agree on that. I fear that my daughter will be further instrumentalized by her to push her agenda. She did this before. I can't do anything about it. There's no chance in fighting for full custody, and it would hurt our daughter even more. Nonetheless, that's where I am now, wasted years. It's just my daughter that shines and keeps my going. I'm grateful she exists and results from better times in the relationship to my wife. No true friends left, just me. A tiny amount of savings to start over again in the hope that me and my wife will handle everything concerning our daughter fairly. At least we agree that we are each good parents. Time will tell. Many people in this sub recommended me to leave. I didn't want to face the truth that healing would not be possible, that my wife didn't suffer consequences and would keep going as before, that it would happen again, that staying would destroy me. All became true. The users in this sub are exceptional and sharing the same experiences. So many people here understand what harm certain relationship dynamics can cause. They understand that affairs aren't just this kinky, dirty oopsie-whoopsie the way media and culture sometimes paint them. They destroy relationships and individuals. They can be traumatizing. Thank you guys for trying. I'm sorry I didn't listen. Everyone else take my story as an example. Don't try to if you have the smallest doubt that your partner really wants to leave their comfort zone. Most times they won't. Edit. I chose to go the soft way. My daughter is a pretty clever one, and I won't lie to her if she asks the right questions. Maybe soon. Maybe one day. My soon-to-be ex, and I made it clear that she can talk to anyone she wants about it at all time. That it's no secret that mommy and daddy will go separate ways, and she can ask anyone anything she wants, talk with us if she is angry, sad, in fear, etc. She took it pretty well. My biggest fear, though, is that my wife controls the narrative concerning our daughter, and well, I can't trust her. So who knows if my suspicions about the current affair are based on real stuff. My wife will behave and act carefully to not raise any suspicions in my daughter. This makes me sick to think about, but I can't do anything about it that wouldn't cause drama and make my daughter feel confused. It's often small things we can't even describe to others that give these very intense feelings of something being wrong. When the feeling started in the recent, at least second, maybe first since marriage affair, my wife finally admitted. I wrote all these moments down for myself, hoping I'd wake up reading them over and over again. Didn't help though. But looking back, I was right in every single moment or small observation. A few months back, I saw my wife and him in front of our house. He works in ambulance care, knows my wife for decades, and had a patient next door. I saw how they hugged for a greeting, his back facing me, and something was very, very off about how she hugged him. The way she bent her finger on his back, super small details. My gut feeling went on maximum after her first affair in 2018. I found this guy's number hidden on a piece of paper in a notebook, so maybe it was an on and off thing between them for years. Today, I know it's part of her modus operandi. The number of her first AP was hidden in her purse, the second one too. And now, since the retreat, a new number, always the same. She saved her first app's number in her phone with a female fake name. After some years, you know your partner very well, and your body tells you when things are off. Most times you won't find undeniable proof for an affair, but you don't need to. It's their part to rebuild the trust if they don't even try to leave. I didn't make the worst mistake of my life so far. She wants to downgrade you to friendship. It makes her life easier in the co-parenting realm. She is free to pursue others romantically while being best buds with her ex to co-parent the children. Never set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Prioritize your happiness and healing. You've given up a lot of yourself in this relationship and need to focus forward on living a healthier and happier life. I had these thoughts already and waded into the process of looking for a place to rent. It's basically being as close as possible to my daughter, like 1 or 2 streets away or living a few miles away. The first variant would allow spontaneous meetings and make it possible for our kid to just come over by herself, but I would risk to become the "I got some spontaneous plans to hang out with someone or whatever, please take the kid, she's over at your place in 5 minutes, thanks father," who is nothing but a person that keeps my ex-wife's life as comfortable as possible, and I'm pretty certain this would happen, and it won't be me who needs spontaneous relief for the kid. Most of my days consists of work, and after I moved out there will be weeks and months that I need to get my crap together and start over. For example, no spontaneous time. Living a bit further away will force us to work on a schedule on when I'll spend time with our daughter. A mandatory schedule. I think this is the better variant. You made a huge mistake quitting therapy. Sounds like it's been toxic before and after her infidelity. Why are you moving out? Prioritize your needs. Use Grey Rock and 180 methods effectively. She will always be who she is, and she'll never show remorse, so don't waste time on her. Focus on your recovery and healing. She will be who she is, and I don't really know what person that is, sadly. Yeah, quitting therapy was stupid. The therapist from back then isn't available anymore, and found a new one though for the next time. I'm moving out because it's honestly the way that hurts our daughter less. You need to know I live in Germany. If you're living in a rented space with a partner and get married, this place becomes protected by some laws no matter who signed the rental contract, only one partner, both etc. You have the same rights after getting married. This protects the married couple from certain things a landlord could do, but it also makes it impossible for one partner to kick the other one out, except for cases of domestic violence, etc. I brought that up to my wife and she didn't know that. For her, it was all logical that I'm the one to leave. One reason was that it's only her name in the contract. This showed me that she didn't really have a clue about what we would go through. No idea of the consequences of a separation. Just get the problem off of me. This is either a fair fog or her being fully convinced on the main problem doesn't matter anyway. To be honest, I admitted that it's the best for our daughter if I move out. Her school is nearby, her friends, etc. I work 40 to 50 hours a week, my wife 25 hours a week. She takes care of most stuff that concerns our daughter. We agreed to this model years ago as I was paid better anyway, and she works in a job that won't allow her many raises or a serious career, so her leaving would cause more turmoil for our kid. The alternative, me and our kid moving out, is nearly impossible. It's incredibly difficult to find a place to rent where we live, let alone a place for at least 2 people. This variant would technically be possible for me, as I wouldn't have to pay child support when the kid is with me, but without child support my wife wouldn't be able to pay the rent of our current place from her paycheck alone. Also, there's no way she would agree to anything else but me moving out. This would mean I'd have to take that to court, which is effing expensive and causes a crapload of drama. I consulted a lawyer about that and was told that my chances to be successful would be minimal, the main reason being that my wife manages more parts of our daughter's life already. Family courts around here focus on the well-being of kids involved. I understand that, so it's just the sad but pragmatic and based decision that I leave. When you move out, will she be able to move her AP into the apartment with your daughter living there too? My worst nightmare from the perspective of a father but very unlikely guy has two underage kids who lost their mom 2 years ago. I guess he doesn't want to pull them out of their supportive environment if this even exists, but I guess so. It's a single dad who went to a health resort with his kids, so he kinda seems to care. I don't know his last name, neither where he lives though. Yeah, the dog story was especially confusing. I asked her to elaborate because I couldn't remember. She said when she came back from the vet and told me about it, I said, well, that sucks, and I didn't comfort her immediately. Note that it was me who went to the vet with her former dog to out him down because she couldn't bear it. Many other examples she threw at me were similar. I brought a few things up that I never talked about with her, like when I had an accident on my way to work a few years back. I took her bike because mine was flat when I called her from the doc's waiting room, had a concussion, swollen foot, and multiple bad abrasions, and asked her to pick me up later the day because I kissed the concrete at high speeds. Her first reaction was asking me why I took her bike and if it's damaged in any way. Another time I puked in her car right before arriving at our doorstep, not from any intoxication. I obviously became sick, had high fever, and felt like crap and couldn't hold it. I remember how mad she was at me. She told me she was mad because I didn't offer her to help cleaning it up. I went inside, fell on the sofa, and slept the rest of the day. You're right, she's never wrong. That's why I became silent at some point. Discussing things with her were pointless, even the smallest things. When she offered 3 dates for anything, the decision was already made for her. It was some kind of pseudo-choice in everything. Also, the persistence in things she wanted if I didn't agree on something, from small things like giving a foot rub to big things like financial investments. She never accepted a no until I gave in. Never. I don't worry about the cheating thing if that's what they tell some people and they pity her for it and see her as a victim. This either means she told them a particular timeline of events and they ate it, or those people don't value the most basic agreement of monogamy that me and my still wife agreed on when we married. Either way, I hope I'll not be sad too long to have these people taken out of my life. Update 2-3 weeks ago I moved out. She told me that in a recent health retreat she realized that she has no more feelings for me, and also brought up a huge load of old things that did wrong. I don't even disagree with that. I frequent this sub because some of the stories here, some insights, and some advice fits perfectly with my experiences and helps me a lot to cope, yet I don't feel like calling my soon-to-be ex-wife next anyway. I saw my therapist yesterday. It was just the second session, but I brought up something that I needed help with. I noticed that I can't talk about my wife's affairs, the first one from 2018, the one that likely went on for multiple years and is still going on, and a recent one that happened at and after the health retreat with a single dad who was on the same retreat. She denied the latter one, but I got proof for it she doesn't know of. I know that all these things don't matter in the face of separation anymore. She's now free to do whatever she wants to with other men, but I know that she doesn't include this part of our separation when she talks with common shared friends and people, and I realize that I somehow cannot bring it up when I talk to those people. There's 2 to 3 people in my family who I talk to about my own failings and my wife's affair. I feel blocked, which in turn makes me really angry. In recent conversations with friends of me and my soon-to-be ex, most of them went silent anyway, but the 2 or 3 who reached out to me or who I reached out to seem to only know her narrative. I am absolutely fine with admitting everything I might have done wrong, but on the other hand, I don't think that my soon-to-be ex will bring up her affairs, so my therapist had an interesting notion. In his opinion, it's a feeling of injustice that makes me angry, and some kind of taught decency and rational thinking keeps me from just shouting into people's faces that my wife betrayed me, destroyed my ability to trust. I normally don't give much about how people perceive and what they think of me, but this time it's different. It feels unfair. My therapist said it reflects a lot about my part of the failed marriage, and his guess is that my wife doesn't. There's one of her best female friends that knows about her affairs, and my best guess is that her narrative is something along that made me do it, and yet she keeps it for herself when talking to most people. Then it's me who failed, me who ended the marriage, me who isolated himself more and more over the years, stopped talking, became passive and silent and distant, and that's all true. I was given the advice to act in a way that won't make me cringe when I think about it 10 years later. I'll try, but I imagine the anger and the feeling of injustice won't disappear for a long time. Did you experience something similar? Did you ever have that feeling of injustice happening and not being able to do something about it? Now on to the next story. Story 5. Found out I had a secret sister after my dad passed away, and she moved in next door to bond with me. Now she wants to hang out every day, and my grandma got mad when I asked for some space. So my father passed away a couple of months back from a heart attack, and recently I found out about my half-sister from his will. My mother had passed away when I was in middle school, so everything that my father had was to be divided among three people: my grandmother and my sister. For the record, I had no idea that this person existed until a couple of weeks ago when my lawyer was discussing it with us. But apparently she was my age, and my father had been taking care of her financially ever since she was born. I'll refer to her as Erica for the purpose of the post. So I am 31 years old and she is around 28. After a long discussion with my dad's lawyer, I learned that my father had had an affair with a coworker for a couple of months and he had wanted to end the affair. But then she got pregnant and she wanted to keep the baby. So he decided to step up and be there for her as the father of the baby. He paid child support and would meet her occasionally on alternate weekends. We are not aware if my mother knew about it or not, but it doesn't make a difference anymore, since the fact of the matter was that after so long I found out that my dad had a lot of skeletons in his closet. Even though he is gone now, and I should probably just forgive him because he was always there for me in spite of everything that I know now. It just feels like I didn't know him at all. It was a bummer for me, I'm being honest. I am aware that I should let it go, but it's just a very difficult thing to come to terms with. Anyway, when my dad's lawyer asked me if I wanted to have any sort of contact with Erica, I told him that I would think about it and let him know. I know it's not her fault, but I just did not want to see her. It's too soon and everything is just too fresh, so I did not want to look heartless is why I said I'd think about it. But in reality I had made up my mind that I did not want to have any sort of relationship with this person, at least not so soon. My grandmother, however, was of the opinion that I should give it a chance and see how it feels like to have a sister. Even though she's not exactly my full sister, she would be my half-sister and I'm not interested in getting to know her. But I did not say anything to my grandmother since she had agreed to see Erica already, and I could tell that she wanted to establish a relationship with this woman. That was a couple of weeks ago, I'd say almost 5 weeks back, and just 2 weeks ago I received a shock when I realized that Erica had moved in next door and we were going to be neighbors now. I found out about this on the weekend. I was just having a lie-in and then my bell started ringing, and it was strange because I usually don't have visitors so early in the morning. But then I opened the door and I found Erica standing outside. Now obviously when I had found out about her, I had stalked her on social media and I knew how she looked. But I did not expect her to be standing right outside my house, and when I saw her I literally had nothing to say because I was in shock. But she seemed very happy to see me and said that she had come all the way from New York, where she had been living for the past couple of years, to meet me, and had even rented the house next door because she wanted to live close to me. She introduced herself and said that she and her boyfriend ran a PR agency for social media creators and they had a bunch of money, and then it made sense how she could just afford to fly down here and rent a house just because she wanted to bond with me. After making some small talk with me, she decided to address the elephant in the room and said that while I'd never known about her, she had always known that I existed and had heard a lot about me from our father, but hadn't reached out because our dad had told her I wouldn't be ready, and he was right, I still wasn't. It still felt weird to address him as our dad. But anyway, I was very awkward around her in the first place because I was not expecting her, and on top of that she seemed so excited to see me that I felt like a bad person for not wanting her around. Besides, she had come all the way from New York and had rented the house close to me when she could still be living with her boyfriend in their nice house, which I had seen on social media, so she was doing all of this for me and I didn't even want to be around her, which made me feel bad. So I decided to give it a shot and was nice to her. She told me that after I had told our dad's lawyer that I wanted some time to think about whether I wanted to have a relationship with her or not, he had refused to give her my address, but she had been talking to our grandmother and apparently she was the one who had suggested this whole idea and even given her my contact info and my address so she could surprise me and so that we could bond with each other. I was not happy that my grandma had done that because she knew that I was still thinking these things over. I had not come to a decision yet, so she had no right to just give out my address like that. But anyway, after I spent that morning talking to Erica, I thought that I might give our relationship a chance because surely if she was putting in so much effort to connect with me, she couldn't be that bad of a person. Last week when we met for the first time, I thought she was nice and sweet, and I thought that maybe we could get to know each other over the course of the next couple of months because she had said that she was sick of living in New York and their business was at a stage where it was pretty much running itself and everybody worked from home anyway. So she could just move down here to be closer to her mother and also to me and her grandma. I was a little intimidated by the thought of having to live with her as my neighbor, but I started feeling guilty about it almost immediately seeing how nice she was being to me. So I told her that it would be a fantastic idea. I had honestly believed that an early morning visit was just a one-time thing that day since she had just landed the previous night and couldn't wait to see me, and I had assumed that when she said that she wanted to build a relationship with me, she meant that we could take our time and do it. But something really weird started happening, and she started showing up at my house every other day. Every morning she would show up with something for breakfast, and I would be forced to have breakfast with her, even though I'm really not a morning person and I prefer being alone for my morning coffee so that I don't have to talk to anybody and I can just be with my thoughts for a while. But she would show up with either donuts or bagels and coffee for me, and then she would start talking every morning, and then I would leave for work just to get away from her. For the first couple of days I tried to tolerate it because I thought she was just being nice, but then after almost 4 days she started showing up at my house after I came back home from work as well. That was a huge problem for me because I'm an oncologist, and I guess everybody knows that my line of work is pretty stressful, so I really need my time and space when I get back home. I can't just walk in and immediately start entertaining guests. But as soon as I got home, she would be at my door within almost 15 minutes, and I would be forced to welcome her inside and hang out with her. It was getting really exhausting for me, and I knew that she was just trying to be nice and build a relationship with me. But she couldn't just force her way into having a good relationship. She had to actually give me my space and respect my boundaries if she wanted us to get along well. 2 days ago, I finally got back home after an exceptionally exhausting day at work, and I just wanted to do nothing but curl up with a good book and a glass of wine and then go to sleep. Unfortunately, Erica showed up at my door once again just as I had returned home and had freshened up. I had already been pretty annoyed with her behavior and decided that I couldn't take any more of this. So I opened the door, and instead of inviting her inside like I usually do, I told her that I needed her to back off a little bit. My tone might have been a bit rough, but I was still trying to be as polite and civilized as I could because I was bone tired and I just didn't want to talk to anybody anyway. I told her to her face that I needed my space and I needed time to get along with her. We couldn't start being all sisterly within a matter of 2 weeks. It was not enough. She had known that I existed for her entire life, but I had just found out about her a couple of months ago, and it was not the same thing for me at all, so I needed her to respect that and respect my boundaries. I told her that she would still be welcome to hang out at my place on the weekends, but on the weekdays after I had come back home from work, I just did not have the energy to deal with anything and I wanted to just relax. I told her that I hoped she would understand where I was coming from, and she said that she respected it, and after she left I finally shut the door. Throughout that interaction she had a poker face, so I couldn't exactly guess what she was feeling, but I knew that I had tried to be as polite and nice as possible, so I didn't feel particularly guilty about what I had said. However, yesterday I received a phone call from my grandmother, and she expressed how disappointed she was in me because of how I had treated Erica. She said that the poor girl was just trying to be nice to me and make up for lost time, which is why she was so insistent on spending as much time with me as she could, because in a couple of weeks she would still have to go back to her boyfriend and wrap everything up in New York so she could move back here permanently, and she seemed really excited about having a sister finally. So she was just trying to get to know me, and instead of appreciating that I had told her to back down. I thought that my grandmother was being a bit unfair, and I told her that I just wanted space and I wanted to respect my boundaries. That was it. I was still open to having a relationship with her, just not one that was moving so fast. I tried to explain that to my grandmother, but she just said that I owed Erica an apology because apparently she was crushed after what I had said, and she felt like she had forced her company onto me when I did not appreciate it. Here is the thing, I can understand why Erica would not understand why I said what I said, since it's not really been that long that she has known me, but my grandmother has known me for my entire life, and I felt like at least she should understand where I'm coming from. Everyone who knows me knows that I am a total introvert and I really don't like spending time with people. I would much rather be on my own, and it's not a thing about being superior. I just like spending time by myself and occasionally with my friends. I am not in a place where I can call her my friend because honestly she has been nice to me, but whenever she comes over she just talks about herself and her life, and it gets kind of boring after a while because I don't even get to talk. I don't understand how she expects to get to know me better if she is doing all the talking. But anyway, that's not the point right now. I am an introvert and I'm in my 30s right now. I really just need my peace and quiet, and I would expect my grandmother to understand that. Instead, we ended up getting into a fight over the phone because of this, since she had taken a very accusatory tone with me and was acting like I was trying to hurt Erica on purpose. She expected me to apologize for what I said, and I told her that I was not apologizing for having boundaries. So she told me that since I was intent on being on my own, she thought it would be for the best if she cut me off as well, since she didn't want to bother me too much. I thought that it was very hurtful since she was basically threatening to cut me off if I did not play nice with Erica, even though she was kind of getting on my nerves. But now I've thought about it and I don't know what to believe anymore. At the end of the day, Erica was actually just trying to be nice to me, and I'm the one who slammed that door shut, and after that fight with my grandmother I feel like even more of a jerk for what I did. I just don't know what to feel anymore. But at the same time I feel like somewhere my actions are justified. I don't want to speak to any of my friends about this at the moment because I need an unbiased and objective opinion, and that's why I'm on Reddit, I guess. So, IDA for telling my half-sister to back off and telling her that I need my space and I can't hang out with her every day. Update 1. So after going through the comments I came to the conclusion that what I did was the right thing to do. I need my space and time to process everything that I have learned. I can't do that if she keeps showing up at my door every single day. So I'm sticking to my decision, and I've told my grandmother that I'm not going to talk to Erica and apologize to her. I don't even have anything to apologize for in the first place. I was pretty nice to Erica, as I had said. Anyway, it has been a couple of days and Erica has not shown up at my house ever since I told her to back off, and after that last conversation that I had with my grandmother, she hasn't spoken to me either. I guess she's not going to talk to me until I apologize to Erica, and that's not going to happen. We are at a dead end right now. Last evening I was pretty sure that when I came back home from work I saw my grandmother leaving Erica's house. She just lives a couple of houses away. We can mostly just walk to each other's places, and I'm pretty sure that when I entered my house I saw her from my window and I realized that she was probably around to visit Erica and not me. I feel bad that this is happening since I'm really close to my grandma. My dad just passed away recently. I can't deal with the fact that she's trying to give me the cold shoulder now. But I was the one who said that I wanted some peace and quiet and time to myself, so I guess I can't force her to talk to me. I guess that just sucks that I had actually expected her to understand where I was coming from because she has known me ever since I was a child. But now it seems like she's pretty decisive about whose side she is on, even though she didn't even need to pick sides. She could have just respected my opinion and let it be. I don't mean to be whiny, but I also feel like Erica had no reason to complain about this to my grandmother because I've been as nice as I possibly could to her. But from what my grandmother told me, Erica had made it sound like I had been very curt and harsh with her. Anyway, I can't force people to understand me and respect my opinions, so if they want to pretend that I'm the villain just for having boundaries, they are free to do so. At least I have my own space now and I can come back home and relax on my own instead of having to entertain guests as soon as I wake up, as soon as I return from work. At least that's one good thing that has come out of all of this. Update 2. 2 weeks ago I posted my last update. Since then, nothing much has really happened. Erica had stopped visiting me, and a couple of days back I saw her getting into a cab with some of her stuff. It was the weekend and I was taking a walk around the neighborhood, like I usually do on the mornings of my weekends. I couldn't help but ask her where she was headed, and she told me she was going to the airport because she was going back to New York for a couple of days, so she could wrap everything up and come back here with her boyfriend. When she spoke to me, her tone was very different from earlier, and I tried not to feel weird about it, but I kind of did. She was very short with me and I felt a bit taken aback. But then I figured that she did not like the fact that I had tried to draw a line, and while she did do it, she did not appreciate it. That was her call to make. I can't exactly judge her for that if she doesn't like me anymore and thinks that I'm the bad guy for saying what I did. I can't help it. I haven't even been able to speak to my grandmother ever since the last phone call that we had because I haven't apologized to Erica, and now I feel like I did the right thing because this morning my grandmother showed up at my place. I thought that she was here to finally sort things out and I was kind of happy, but then she said that she was here to discuss my behavior with me. I was very confused about what she meant until she said that she had been thinking about it and she believed that I needed a therapist so that I could process my emotions and let them out in a healthy way instead of isolating myself from people who care about me. That was a pretty bizarre thing to say because I had not isolated myself from anybody. All I had done was tell Erica that I did not want to see her every single day, but I was still open to talking to her grandmother and keeping in touch with her. She was who was shutting me out, and as for isolating myself, I don't think I'm doing that at all. I hang out with my coworkers during lunchtime, and occasionally I will meet up with my friends, and that's how it has been since forever. I just don't like going out of the house to hang out with people or having people over every single day. I think that's a pretty normal thing to do, and I don't need a therapist for that. I got a bit offended when she said that, and I told her that I was perfectly healthy and normal, so I didn't need her to take me to a therapist. Besides, if I had to, I would probably prefer going because I wanted to deal with the loss of my father and not because she thought that I was being weird, just because I did not want to hang out with my sister, who I didn't even know existed until a couple of weeks ago, just by the way. And then my grandmother said that she strongly believed that speaking to a mental health professional would do me a world of good because the way that I was acting was just not right and she was getting worried about me. So I asked her if she was really worried about me, then why hadn't she spoken to me all these days, and then she told me that she had wanted me to reach out to her and also apologize to Erica like she had told me earlier. But since I was too stubborn to do any of that, she had to come to talk to me herself, and she had started believing that since my father had passed away, I had probably started thinking of Erica as the villain. It was so ridiculous because I did not think badly of Erica. I just wanted some space from her, and no matter how hard I tried to explain that to her, she just wouldn't get it. On top of that, she started talking about how concerned she was about me and said that if I continued acting like this, I would be left with nobody in the end. I finally snapped after and told her that I pretty much had nobody from my family left to count on since both my parents were gone now, and she too believed that I needed help but wasn't willing to actually talk to me. So I wasn't too worried about being on my own anymore. Then I told her that I had to leave for work and I was getting late. So she left and that was it. I had a pretty exhausting day at work as well because I was in such a terrible mood. I feel like both my grandmother and Erica are taking things too far and are trying to make me feel guilty for no reason. Today I was feeling so annoyed that I finally ended up speaking to a couple of my friends about what had happened, and I told them everything. After listening to me, most of them were of the opinion that I did not do anything wrong. I was nice to everybody, but I just made it clear that I needed some space. There's nothing bad about it, and if somebody feels offended by that, they don't deserve a place in my life at all, and if my grandmother thinks that there's something wrong with me mentally, she can go on with that belief and continue to make me seem like the bad guy. I really don't care anymore because I'm done dealing with such immature and weird people. Update 3. 3 days have passed since my last update, and a lot of things have happened since then. Like I had said, my grandmother wanted me to speak to a therapist so I could sort out my feelings, even though I was pretty clear about what I had wanted anyway. She did not say anything to me that day, but the next day she started texting me again and sent me a list of therapists around me and even ones who would conduct therapy sessions online. The implication that there had to be something wrong with me for not wanting to entertain Erica every day was getting on my nerves. So I didn't block her, but I muted all her notifications and I haven't responded to her since, and after what I just found out, I hardly think that I will anyway. Yesterday, while I was at work, my dad's lawyer called me and said that he wanted to discuss something with me. So we got on a call a couple of minutes later, and he told me that my dad's affair partner from earlier had said that she wanted to speak to me. Initially, he had told me that Erica's mother had no interest in speaking to me, but Erica wanted to build a relationship with us. So now her sudden change of heart came as a surprise to me. I thought that it would have something to do with my behavior with Erica, and I thought that she was going to berate me just the same way that my grandmother had, and I really didn't need any more of that. So my first impulse was to say no because I really didn't want any more drama. But then my dad's lawyer said that he thought that I should speak to her since when she had called him, she said that it was pretty urgent, and she needed to discuss it with me immediately. That got me thinking, and I told him to give her my phone number so she could call me. Half an hour later, she finally called me up, and after introducing herself, she came straight to the point. She told me that she and her daughter had always known about me, and she was sorry about the passing of my father. But she had recently found out from Erica that I thought my grandmother had no idea about the affair until recently, and I believed that she had found out at the same time as I did. She wanted me to know that my grandmother had known about all of this and had been a very active part of their life so far. She told me that my grandmother was lying to me about everything, and when she found out about it, she decided that she couldn't keep her mouth shut about it because she thought it was wrong on several levels. When she told me all of this, I felt incredibly betrayed because my grandmother had known that I had sister and had never bothered to tell me anything, and on top of that I have to hand it to her. She was a great actress because she didn't even let me guess that she might have known Erica just as long as she had known me. Erica too had lied to me about everything, but I was not as hurt about that as I was about my grandmother lying to me because I had barely known her. I thanked Erica's mother for telling me the truth, and then I hung up. After this, I was pretty determined never to speak to my grandmother or Erica ever again because both of them knew the truth and I had been kept in the dark. I think that if anybody really needs therapy, it's the two of them and not me. It's very obvious that the two of them are a team, and everything makes sense now. So while I have still not blocked either of them, I'm definitely going to make sure that I don't have to speak to them again. I'm still trying to process all of this and come to terms with it. I guess that I was right when I said I pretty much don't have anybody in my family that I can count on. It sucks that literally everybody I have known has been lying to me for so long and wouldn't be surprised if I found out that my mother had also known about the affair. Anyway, anybody who wants a summary of what I have said, it's basically that I have a family of liars and I know that I can't trust anybody ever again. Update 4. Hi, a couple of months have passed since my last update. I have remained in no contact with my grandmother and Erica. She lives right next door with her boyfriend, but we don't even say hi to each other, and I'm fine with that. In fact, I actually pray for that because all of them are liars and I don't even want to have to see them. But unfortunately, she already rented that house and I don't have a say in it. My grandmother visits Erica quite frequently, and she hasn't bothered to reach out to me after I cut her off a couple of months back after I found out the truth about her. Initially, I used to feel really bad about it because I felt like I had no family left, but honestly, after a while, I came to terms with it. I realized that having no family would be better than having the kind of family who lies to you and never respects you. At least I have my friends with me, and I know for a fact that they are always going to be there for me. So far, they are the only people who I've been able to count on. My life is honestly going great right now, and I'm cool with everything that has happened. I'm willing to put the past in the past and move on. Now on to the next story. Story 6. Surgeon husband chose his man cave over giving my homeless dad a place to stay. He posted on Reddit for validation, so I exposed his neglect of our kids. Wife, 37F, and I, 40M, are arguing about her father, 65M, moving in with us. What should I do? There's a lot of background here, so I'll try and keep it to what's relevant. Married 10 years, dated 3 before that. We have 2 kids. Her parents are divorced. Her mom comes from a wealthy family, and when her parents got married, her family did a lot of legal and financial stuff and prenups and stuff to keep the money safe growing up. Her mom was busy a lot and was the primary breadwinner. Her dad really was the one who raised her. He was the one who took her and picked her up from school, who helped her with her homework, and went to her shows, plays, games, etc. When she was 12, it turned out her mom had been having an affair, and it led to her parents divorcing. This is where her mom's family's money comes in. They were able to afford very good lawyers, and her money had already been locked up tight, so she wound up with custody, and he left the marriage with not very much to his name. And since he had spent so much time raising her, he had neglected his own career. He struggled after that. My wife has a fraught relationship with her mother. She never really forgave her mother for the affair, the divorce, and her destroying his life. Once she was a teenager, she chose to move in with her dad. So that's a bit of background. She remained close to her dad to this day. He's been an active part of our lives, and he spends a lot of time with our kids, who both love him, but he's been struggling. COVID was really hard for him because he really couldn't work. He fell behind on his bills, and he's been struggling to catch up ever since. He's now about to be evicted. My wife wants him to move in with us. She says it's absolutely unacceptable to her for him to be homeless when we have a basement we can move him into. Thing is, the basement is my space. It's set up to be my retreat, and she now wants to turn it into a bedroom for him. We've been arguing about this because she says she won't allow him to be homeless, and my point is, he won't be homeless. He has a place he can go with his sister, but she lives on the other side of the country. My wife hates that idea. She says she wants him to be a part of her and our kids' lives and not on the other side of the country. He's not a bad guy. I don't hate him or anything. I just want some space for our family. My wife's position is that he is family, and he can help with the kids. She's accusing me of caring more about my man cave than the well-being of her father. That's an exaggeration. He isn't going to be homeless. He can move in with his sister. This argument is starting to become pretty ugly now, and she's threatening to take the kids and move out to find a place with him if I won't agree to let him move in here. I resent that threat. I'm starting to wonder if this is really a hill I should die on. On the other hand, I'm shocked and angry that my wife seems ready to throw away our whole marriage over this. Comments. Comment. You do care more about your man cave than both your wife and your Phil. Get another TV. You can hang out in your bedroom. Jesus dude, your solution involves your wife never seeing her father and your kids growing up without him so you can go sit in your basement occasionally. Comment. Are you kidding me? First of all, before we touch on the Phil part, where is his wife's basement-sized relaxation space? Does she have one? Second, he is a staple in your children's lives. You're willing to make that disappear because if he is on the other side of the country, he's not going to be with them. You'd be robbing your children of the time left with him. Third, you'd be robbing your wife of the time remaining with him. I'm so mad at you and I don't even know you. Comment. Are you for real? Your position would be easier to understand if you had no room, but you do. Let me ask you something. Does your wife have a space in your home that is exclusively hers that she can retreat to in order to rest or practice her hobbies? If the answer is no, why doesn't she? Why are you the only one who gets the luxury of having such a space? Why is your man cave, let's be honest, that's what it is, more important than housing the man who raised your wife? Why do you get to monopolize a whole basement that is solely for your benefit? This is a hill worth dying on for her. Maybe this is the first step toward realizing she's married to a very selfish man. Husband. No, because my wife doesn't work a high-pressure job as a surgeon like I do. She doesn't need a space to unwind after she loses a patient like I do. Comment. As a surgeon married to a surgeon, you suck. Get off your high horse and realize you're not nearly as important as you think you are. Comment. Super simple. If you have a loving relationship with your own parents, imagine if it was your dad on the verge of becoming homeless. If you don't, then it will be hard for you to understand, and you might end up in a divorce. I assume your wife will learn from her own mom, and she will end up with house, kids, and her dad in the basement. Expect similar conversation in 20 years between your kids and their partners where you will end up. Husband. I haven't spoken to or seen my dad in 22 years. I could not care less if he was homeless, and I wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire. For all I know, he could be homeless now and I'd just laugh and tell him he deserved it. I don't plan to see my father again until he's in his coffin, and I'll only go to his funeral and deliver a eulogy to remind everyone what a garbage person he is. Comment. She watched her mother strip her father of everything, even her, and she was powerless to help. Today, she has the chance to help because it is within her power. This is important to her for this reason alone, with the other reasons you admit it to. She doesn't have to sit back and watch him suffer today. This is the reason she will leave you because you are robbing her of the opportunity to help her father today. Do not think for 1 minute that she will not divorce you because she will. You are losing the following: your wife, your children, your home, your happiness, money for the child support and alimony. So that room is more important than all of these things? Then by all means say no. Not only will you lose these treasures, but oh yeah, you will lose the space anyway because you won't be in the house, but he will. Update 1. I'm going to talk to my wife about getting him an in-law suite in our yard that he can stay in permanently and give up the basement until we can build it. The comments have helped me play out how the most likely scenarios would go. Just so everyone knows whose side you're all taking here. She's a spoiled, rotten princess who grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth. Everything she has was given to her. Between my salary and the trust fund her grandparents left her, she doesn't need to work, but she does anyways and complain. She needs her dad's help with the kids. I'm a surgeon, and she's an interior designer. Which one of us contributes more to humanity? She's a shallow, vapid woman who decorates houses while I'm saving lives. Comment. Why would you say such terrible things about your wife in public like this? This all because people on Reddit are pointing out that you're in the wrong in this situation and could choose to behave better. If you actually respected your wife, you wouldn't be this comfortable putting her down publicly when you know she's going to read it. Your disdainful words about her gives off the impression that you don't want to reconcile or compromise with your wife, but that your priority was just to receive validation of being right so that you could continue neglecting your kids without improving. Update 2. My husband is a surgeon and according to him, he's the most important person in the world, a god among men who casually determines life or death and is far too important to be bothered by the trivial concerns of us means, concerns like maybe you should spend some time with your kids. But oh no, you see, he works so hard and has so much pressure that when he's home, he has to be sequestered from the annoying sounds of our girls playing or, being happy to see him. My dad has picked up the slack. He's been the one that's changed their diapers. I drop them off at school and go to work. Dad picks them up and stays with them till I get home. My dad was the one who taught them to ride a bike. My dad is the one who shows up to the plays and dance recital. He's the one that helps with the homework. My dad is the one who dresses as Santa. My dad is the one who does the Easter egg hunts and the tea parties. My husband is far too important for any of that. And despite the fact that my husband has absolutely no interest in our kids, he is still pissed that the kids are closer to my dad than him. So my dad is now struggling financially. We have the means to help him, but my husband doesn't want to. He'd rather see my dad move to the other side of the country and removed from our kids' lives. I put my foot down and he goes on to Reddit to whine about it. Well, now I'm here too. Dear, you want to whine about our marriage on Reddit? I can do it too. Now for some comments. Comment. Do drop your dad's a great dad and grandpa. Your kids will know that. Wife, the kids love him. He's been a daily fixture in their lives since they were born. They know him better than they know their father. I'm not a stay-at-home parent. I also have a job. I'm also the only parent in this marriage. Everyone acts like I'm not working full-time too, but I still manage to make time for the kids. I get the kids up and dressed for school. My dad picks them up and stays with them until I get home. Kids get out at 3 o'clock. I'm home by 6 o'clock. My dad is there to pick the kids up and stays till I get home. Husband has no parts in this. Comment. Has concern about the children preferring their grandparent over him indicate a genuine desire to connect with his kids? Wife. I've heard this before, but nothing ever changes. He complains and then tells me he has to go out of state to some medical conference, and we'll talk about it later, and we never do. He just text messaged me now. I have surgery, we'll talk about this tonight. Yeah, he always has surgery when we need to talk about this. It's like clockwork. It never fails. Comment. I don't see you complaining about the lifestyle he's afforded you. Wife. Everyone keeps acting like it's all his money. Well, it isn't. I work too, and my family helped us with the house and his medical school debt. Comment. Your family helped with his debt, and he's not willing to even budge? WTF? Comment. Wife replies to husband. I'm done. This isn't about the man cave or the space, and you know it. We have the money to help my dad. We have a 7-bedroom house with a pool house and a movie theater. This isn't about space or money. This is about you being petty and jealous that the girls are closer to my dad than you. Get this through your thick head. That's your fault for 9 years. Everything else in your life has been more important than the girls. You work 70 hours a week, and when you're not at work, you go golfing with the people you work with, or you're at a medical conference with the people you work with, or you're dragging me to some fundraiser with the people you work with. When you are at home, you need to sequester yourself because the sound of my children playing annoys you. You seem to conveniently forget that they're your children too. You only seem to remember that part when I want to move my father in to help me with our girls. It's amazing how you can be so smart and so stupid at the same time. You're upset the girls love dad more than you, and you're such a petty and small man that your solution is to ship him off out of their lives and break our girls' hearts. But you don't plan to actually be a part of their lives. You just want my dad gone. I won't let you take him out of their lives. The family is me, the girls, and my father. Your family are the people you work with, and you're married to your job, not me. Well, you can have it. Don't come home. Stay at the hospital or go to your horse house. Yeah, I know about her. I don't care anymore. I'm done. I'm done trying to make this marriage work. I'm done begging you to be a father. The girls won't miss you anyways. You've never shown an interest in their lives, and I am done letting you hurt and neglect my children. They deserve someone in their lives that loves and cares for them and shows interest in them. You don't. You want to drag this out onto Reddit? Then fine, let's do this on Reddit. I'm divorcing you. We're done. Go save the world. You're free. By the way, you're worse than your parents. They may have been weird and misguided, but they were a part of your life. And now he wants to talk about this in private? Everyone now he has a problem with this being on Reddit? You're the one who brought it here, honey. Deal with the bed you made. Update 3. Wow. This all blew up. I was so angry when I posted this. Now I'm just drained. He came by yesterday to pick up some things and we argued. The girls were out with my dad because I knew this would be a fight and I didn't want them around for this. He said awful things, just awful about me, my dad, and the girls. After he left, I talked to my mom. We have a difficult relationship, but if there's one person I want in my corner going into the divorce, it's her. The divorce is happening. I saw an attorney my mom recommended today. I'm really glad I went through with that prenup my mom wanted when we got married. Now at this point, I won't speak to my STBX husband. My lawyer is doing my talking for me. I'm exhausted. Thank you everyone for all the support. It helped to read the comments and know people supported me. He made me feel so small and stupid yesterday, and he said awful things about our girls. I'm not mad anymore. I'm just heartbroken. Our girls deserve better than this. I really wanted better for them. I just wanted to have a family and a nice home. Now I'm just going through a divorce like my parents. I never wanted this. I tried so hard to keep this all together so we didn't wind up here, but I failed. When I met him, he was in medical school and working as a paramedic. He moved into my apartment, and I covered the expenses so he could quit working and focus on medical school full-time. He didn't have a problem with me being an interior designer then, and he didn't resent my trust fund when it was paying for our apartment. Now for some comments. Comment. What was his self-admitted reason for marrying you, OP? Comment. Why not pay dad's outstanding rent, OP? OP, you have to understand that this was not about space or money like he claimed. His goal was to get my father out of our lives. My dad leaving our lives was the solution he wanted. Any solution that kept him in our lives, he had a problem with. He wasn't like this when we met, and in defense of my mom, for as difficult as things have been with us over the years, I don't question that she loves me. We've had our differences and our fights, but when I need her, she comes through like she is now and like she did with the wedding. And God bless her for her foresight and having the prenup made. What she did to my dad will never sit right with me, but she's in my corner, and right now I'm glad to have both my parents in my corner. I don't want the girls living with someone they are afraid of. It was only tolerable because of how little he was around. Comment. I understand the feelings of failure when getting a divorce. It's how society and culture has set us up. I always said I never considered divorce, contemplated murder though, so sometimes failure is good. I felt I failed getting a divorce, but I felt being free from other society's demands also. Also, you picked this man. You believed his promises. He didn't deliver on being a good dad and husband. He failed his children, you, his wife, himself, and any test of being a decent human being by badmouthing his children. You failed maybe, but without this marriage, you wouldn't have these children. That's more than a silver lining. Somewhere in the future there might be another better suited, so my mother, a widower, waited until my sister and I left for uni. Opie. I don't think my failure was in having my kids with him. It was in keeping this marriage together and giving him a home and family he actually wanted to come back to. Update 4. Hi everyone. I'm back. My husband is now my ex-husband. Our state, you only need 30 days between filing and judgment. We both agreed divorce was best. He moved out New Year's Day and has never been back. My original post sort of went viral. It was reshared on TikTok and on Facebook, and our family and friends wound up seeing it. My lawyer recommended I stop posting about the divorce until it was finalized. Well, the divorce is now done. After he moved out, we both retained our lawyers, and most of the divorce was handled through them. We didn't speak much until we went into final arbitration and signed the agreements to bring to the judge. About a week after I retained my attorney, I had my attorney, his attorney, and some movers meet at my house to inventory everything that belonged to him, including in his man cave, pack it up, and ship it out to a storage unit his lawyer arranged. I didn't want to give him any reason to come after me for anything. I know people wanted me to nail him to the wall, but I really didn't want a long and bitter divorce. He wanted to go. I wanted him gone, and we both wanted it to happen as soon as possible. Turns out he was offered a job in another state, and he wanted to take it and was itching to get out of here. We both had prenups that made the division of assets pretty painless, and he had no problem with giving me full custody and paying child support. I didn't need or ask for spousal support. Honestly, how little he fought for our girls was the part that hurt me the most. The biggest disagreement we had was with the house. My mom stepped up to buy him out of the mortgage payments he put down so that me, the girls, and my dad wouldn't have to move. He really wanted this done as fast as he could so he could ride off into the sunset with his affair partner and take his new job, and that's exactly what he did. He got the ending he wanted, free of me and the kids and free to be the world's best surgeon or whatever. Mom and Dad both came through for me in big ways. Mom is a lawyer herself, and she had set up the house and my other assets to be protected. She also was the one to get me my lawyer. Dad moved into the pool house, and that's where he's going to stay. My dad is going to enjoy his golden years being pop to our girls and dad to me. I'll make sure he won't have to worry about anything. My daughter's 10th birthday was 2 weeks ago. My husband promised her he would fly out for it. I made this party a really big deal. I hired performers, rented a bouncy cast, had all her classmates over. Most of my family was there. My mom and dad were able to be in the same place and not fight. We had a really great time and he never showed up. She got a card from him the day after her party with a lame apology and a $500 gift card. I asked her if she was okay, and she shrugged. She had a great time at her party and didn't expect her dad to show. She knows he doesn't love her. That's what she told me. She wasn't really upset about it either. She's 10 years old and already expects him to disappoint her. It breaks my heart, but she's a trooper, and she didn't let it stop her from enjoying her day. I realized that for years I've been trying to make a home for him to come home to, but he's had one foot out the door, and I've been holding his hand trying to keep him from going. I finally let go. I'm doing better than I thought I would, to be honest, and the girls are too. I don't really miss him. The girls don't really miss him. I'm not even angry about the affair. She can have him. I'm just disappointed. Now for some comments. Comment. The shallow, vapid woman who decorates houses while he's saving lives. Right? The woman who doesn't need to work but does so you have income and purpose. Perp? Comment. That guy. With any luck, he'll get slapped with a malpractice suit so he can really taste his own medicine. Insulin for the non-diabetic, I say. Opie. He could just never wrap his head around that I wanted to work, that I like my career, that I have relationships with clients and contractors and vendors and an office staff. It was a constant argument with us. There were multiple stressors that broke our marriage. This was a big one, his steady insistence I quit my job, close up my business, and stay at home. But I'm also a lazy, entitled, spoiled, rotten princess, so who the knows? Comment. It'll never make sense because it's nonsensical. I'm so happy for you and your daughters and father. You deserve good things. You're so fortunate to have them. I hope things improve with your mom. I had a rough patch with mine too, and it was the worst. The money stuff is another layer a lot of folks don't understand. Opie. Things with my mom are getting better, and amazingly, things between my mom and dad are getting better as well. They both showed up for my daughter's tent and didn't fight or make catty remarks to each other or side-eye each other or glare or any of it. I said it in another comment, but ironically, my marriage dissolving has done more to heal the rest of my family than anything else has. Update 5. What am I supposed to tell my girls, 10 and 7, about their father? My ex-husband was never a very present father. He's a surgeon and spent most of his time either working or doing something with his coworkers. He was rarely ever home, and when he mostly wanted to be left alone to hang out by himself in his man cave. He didn't like the girls being loud or playful because it disturbed him. Our daughters have always walked on eggshells around them and has never taken much of an interest in their lives. So we just finalized our divorce. He couldn't wait to get out of the marriage. He wanted to be done with this marriage and our kids so he could take a new job in another state and live with his affair partner. I asked for full custody and he was relieved. He didn't want custody. He didn't fight at all for them. He hasn't even seen them since the day he moved out 2 months ago. He's gone now in another state, and my oldest had her 10th birthday about 2 weeks ago. I threw a really huge party for her. I made it a really big deal and he promised her he would be there. He never showed. We get a card with a lame apology and a gift card from him a day after her birthday. I felt so bad for her. And what makes it worse is she wasn't even upset. I asked her how she felt about it and she shrugged. She said she wasn't surprised and that dad didn't really love them. What the hell do I say to that? Am at a loss for words because I don't believe he loves them either. Do I lie to them? Tell them of course he does, he's just busy? What do I tell her? The truth? No, he doesn't real love you? I have no idea what to say to my girls. Should I bring it up? Just not talk about it at all? Just leave the fact that their dad doesn't give a and has pretty much abandoned them? Just carry on as usual because let's be honest. He hasn't been a part of our lives for a long time. He never really was. Not that much has changed for the girls besides the fact that they don't need to walk on eggshells for the 1 or 2 days a month he was even at home. I just don't know. Both the girls are in therapy now. We all are. Maybe this is something I should bring up there. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Wife was a competitive chess player with a 2,300 plus rating, but she was lying and throwing games for our 10-year-old son. I have an odd and very specific issue with my wife and wanted some perspective on it. More than anything, I'm just confused. Really? I'll lay out the details. So, my wife is really good at chess, like really good. She used to play in tournaments. She is a titled player. I think her peak FIDE rating was around like 2,300, 2350. She's good. I am not. Ha! I enjoy the game, but I am nowhere near her. I have an online rating of 1,120. Recently, our 10-year-old son has started to show an interest in chess, and we've been teaching him the game. Before we began teaching him, my wife and I had talked and come to the agreement that it would not benefit him to go easy on him or let him win. It was better to play at our real strengths and help him understand the game, help him learn to analyze his games, replay the critical positions, and understand where he could make improvements or choose a different line. We were totally on the same page on this full agreement. However, when my wife plays with our son, she has been letting him win. She is not playing anywhere near her real strength, and after about 30 games between them over the course of the last few weeks, he is a plus score against her, which is crazy. For context, over the 16 years that we have been together, I've had at a guess around 1,000 games with my wife. I have never beaten her, not once, not ever, not a single game. She just demolishes me, rolls me off the board. Once, about 5 years ago, when she had the flu, I drew her in a perpetual check from a losing position, and I was very proud of that, haha. I hold that as one of the strongest games I ever played. The only way I'm winning a chess game against my wife is if she falls asleep at the board and I win on time. She's just that far beyond me. So here's the odd thing. When I try to talk to her about it, she just lies to me. She flatly insists that she's playing to her full strength and all of his wins are legitimate, which is just simply not true at all. And before I get the suggestion that he's perhaps a prodigy and that the two of them are playing at a level that I can't understand, that's not the case. I have observed their games. He is playing like a beginner. I have plugged some of their games into an engine and the engine just breaks down crying at how bad the play is on both sides. It's not a subjective interpretation. These games are objectively bad. My wife is simply refusing to capture hanging pieces for multiple turns, intentionally making bad trades, making anti-positional moves that make no sense, refusing to execute extremely simple combinations that even I can see. Like, my wife can see mate in 3, she can probably see mate in 15, and the idea that she is missing those things is nonsensical. When I play my son, I crush him. I'm not blaming him, he's still learning the game, but he's still at the level where he can fall for the scholar's mate, making one-move blunders. That's just where he is. When I try to talk to my wife about it, she insists up and down that she's playing as well as she can, and she's so earnest that it almost seems like she genuinely believes it. I'm beginning to worry about some kind of mental illness, like I have no idea what is going on here. I've never had anything like this with her. Normally, we're very communicative. This is really out of left field for her and really very odd. I've tried talking with her about it multiple times now, but I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I don't even know how to discuss this with her when we can't even agree on what is objectively happening in reality. It's like trying to discuss how to build a sailboat when you can't agree on what water is or if cloth and water are things that exist in reality. I don't even know how to start a conversation here. As it stands, my son won't play with me anymore because I always win and it's disheartening for him. If it was simply a case of my wife seeing that he needs a confidence boost and changing her mind about letting him win, I of course would have zero problem with that. I'm 100% on board, we can totally do that. I've said that directly to her, but she's dead set, adamant that she's absolutely not going easy on him in any way. The issue isn't that she's letting him win, it's that she's refusing to admit it. It's just so bizarre. She's just blatantly insisting that reality isn't real. I don't know what to do. Now for some comments. Some long ones fleshing out info. Someone blames him for crushing his son and being unreasonable in his playing. Opie. I'm not sure how you've read the post 3 times and failed to catch the part where this is my wife's idea. I don't have any desire to crush my son. I'm trying to help him learn. My wife is insisting that we play at full strength and do not let him win. She is currently insisting this now, even in the face of me suggesting that we could try a different way. She is adamant that she will not play below her strength and is insistent that I don't play below my strength either. She says that playing poorly will not help him learn. Then she is turning around playing below her strength objectively and inarguably, and then denying that she's doing it to my face. That's the issue. I'm happy to let him win, as I have stated multiple times all over this post. My only issue is that my wife insists that we absolutely must not play below our strengths and then is playing below her strength and telling me that she's not. It's not a subjective determination. I'm not making it up. She's objectively not playing like a 2300. She's not even playing like an 800. Yet she swears up and down that she's playing at her top strength. My aim is to understand why she's doing that. Comment. Go ahead. Break your son's spirit and tell him, man. Opie. The projection is so strong in this thread, I don't even know why I'm here. You all have decided what I'm going to do without my input. You don't even need me, haha. Opie. No, I would not tell my son. I would happily go forward in any way that we decide as parents, or honestly any way that my wife decided. She's a literal expert in this matter, and I would follow her lead on whatever way she wanted to go forward. The issue is that she's telling me we're going to do A and then she is doing B, and then when I ask about it she's telling me I'm doing A. She doesn't need to admit it. It's objectively verifiable. If I had that desire I could prove it at any time, but I don't. I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to understand what's going on here. Opie. No, you probably don't want to believe it. Reddit seems to really love that drama of the evil abusive husband, but I love my son and I care about his feelings, and I love my wife. I want her to be well and happy, and I want to have good communication with her. I want to know what's going on with her and why she is saying these things, but I don't even know how to start talking to her about this because we can't even find a common reality to live in. Opie. People offer actual advice and bafflement at the amount of people misreading his post. I don't really understand it either. According to most of the comments I've read here, I'm an abusive, egomaniacal control freak that is destroying my family's happiness, and they live in fear of me. I'm waiting to hear about how I beat my wife with chains when she looks at me wrong and starve my son when he leaves his socks on the floor. Ha! I think there are a lot of really hurt people out there that project their own trauma and pain onto everything they see. I'd like to address those things, but there's simply too much, and honestly it wouldn't do much good anyway. The people who are determined to see me as a monster see monsters everywhere they look. I can't help them. As to my wife, no, I haven't played with her recently. A few months at least, perhaps. That's a good idea. It's very odd behavior for her. She is otherwise very trustworthy. My wife and I ordinarily have a very strong, loving relationship, and I am very close with my son. We play Minecraft together a lot. I have been really happy to be able to share chess with him, as it's something my wife and I both enjoy deeply. We really have a lovely relationship. I've had so many wonderful nights getting absolutely demolished by my wife, drinking and laughing and playing chess together. I'm no match for her. I never will be, but I'm not trying to be. I'm just trying to improve my own game and have fun. I enjoy the game, and her mind is endlessly interesting to me. My initial time teaching my son was very positive. I have shared some of the books with him that I used when I was learning the game. I have taught him some of the very basic opening moves, showed him how to use chess notation and how to go back over his games and analyze and annotate them. We've watched some chess streamers together. That has been fun, and I can see his mind expanding and growing. But he only wants to play his mom now because, he's 10 and he gets easy wins, huh? I don't blame him. I'm just confused about my wife. I am more than happy to let him win against me too. It's just that's not what we had agreed. My wife and I agreed to a course of action. I followed through and she didn't, which is also fine. People change their minds all the time, no problem. My only issue here is that she is insisting that it's not happening. It's like we both agreed to drive to France, we got in the car, and then she drove to Germany, and when I asked, "Hey, why did we come to Germany? I thought we were going to France." Her response was, "We are in France right now. So strange. My issue is not with beating my son at all. I'm happy to teach him in any way, and as I stated, my wife initially suggested the idea of playing at our full strengths, and as she is obviously an expert, I agreed. I'm not trying to compete with my son or crush him in every game. I just want to be on the same page as my wife." So many people here simply can't even imagine a scenario where a father isn't taking sadistic pleasure in destroying their beginner child. It makes me really sad for them and how their lives must have been. Like many people here have taken issue with my plugging games into an engine to prove that they're bad. I guess people outside the chess world don't really understand that engine analysis is extremely standard. It's a tool that every chess player who wants to improve uses on every single game they play. When you play regularly, you analyze literally every game. Plugging games into engines is totally normal, but yeah, toxic and bad, got it, ha. Comment. I appreciate you addressing the actual issue. Your comment has been helpful to me, and I will consider what you've said. I'll try playing her and see how that goes. More responses from Opie clarifying. I believe this comment is really in good faith and trying to help. Thank you. I'll address your questions. Comment. She changed her mind when she saw you crush him again and again. Opie, totally possible and zero problem if that's the case. Although I wouldn't say I've crushed him over and over. We've played 8 games, and after each game we have discussed what went wrong, different concepts, what you want to be doing with your pieces in general, center control, piece development, knights toward the center, don't make too many pawn moves early, etc. I'm not just smashing him and yelling in your face, sucker, and walking away. I feel the games we've had have been positive and instructive, but if she has changed her mind on this, I'm totally fine with it. She's the expert and I defer to her. The only issue that I have is that she's insisting that she hasn't changed her mind and that she's playing at her full strength when she's just not. It's like if your wife was wearing all white clothes but insisting that she only wears black and is wearing black right now. It's strange and doesn't make sense. Comment. I think she doesn't trust you when you say you'd be okay with letting your son win. Opie. I can understand why you might generate this idea, but all I can respond to this is that I really hope that's not the case, and I don't know of anything that I would have done to cause that. My relationship with my wife and my son is generally very good. We are very close and loving, we communicate well. I don't believe that I've ever given her the impression that she wouldn't be able to trust me or talk to me. I'd be happy to let my son win games against me. I'm happy to go in any way we choose, it's just we chose a way together. I went that way and she didn't, and that's fine too. People change their minds, there's nothing wrong with that, but she's telling me she didn't. Comment. She fears if she admits this to you, you will rub it in his face because it bothers you that you could never win against her again. Opie. These are legitimate questions that deserve answering. You don't know anything about me. It's reasonable to wonder about these things. I would never rub it in my son's face. I would never want him to feel bad about himself. I love him and want to build him up. He's my guy. He's such a happy, sharp, cool kid, and I would never want to bring him down or make him feel bad. I understand why you would ask, but on this, just no man. I'm my son's biggest cheerleader. As to the question about being bothered by my wife beating me, not for a long time. I'll admit when we first met, when I was in my early 20s, it stung a bit, haha. I tried hard to beat her back then, but I very quickly realized that she's just on a whole other level from me. Like in the same way it doesn't bother me that LeBron James can beat me at basketball either. It's not a personal failing of mine. Dude is just amazing at basketball at a level that vanishingly few people can ever even get near. That's just how it is. My wife is like that with chess. I know that in the chess world there's even lots of people who are better than her. But for me she's LeBron man. I don't feel bad that I can't beat her. I just stand in awe of her skill and feel happy that she chooses to share it with me. Comment. Has this ever been a problem in the past? Is your ego sometimes getting the best of you? Do you have a history of letting things slip to make other people feel bad? Opie. Again, understand why you would ask, but not really man. Ego has never really been much of a problem for me. People around me have always described me as a very chilled, laid-back guy. I'm not that guy. I appreciate the genuine attempt to help. Really. I hope my answers to your questions have helped paint a more clear picture of my family and who I am as a person. Opie. Clarification on the word crush. In the chess community, the word crush is standard accepted nomenclature indicating that the game was very one-sided. For example, in every single game I have ever played with my wife, she has crushed me. It doesn't have as strong of a negative connotation. It's simply shorthand to indicate one convincingly with little challenge. I'm quickly realizing that that word paints a very different picture for people who are not familiar with this. Opie. People think it's weird to use a chess analyzer. I'll take this opportunity to provide some clarity here, as I've seen this come up repeatedly through the thread. I think it may be that people who are not involved in chess don't really understand engine use, but if you talk to anyone who plays chess at any kind of level past beginner, they will tell you that engine analysis of every game you play is utterly standard. When you finish a game on chess.com, it immediately brings you to an analysis board where you can replay the game move by move and see all the lines. When you play an OTB game, you write down each move you and your opponent make, and when you finish you analyze the game the same way, either together with your opponent as my wife and I do every time, or by using an engine. Analysis is arguably more important for improvement than actual play. I have spent hundreds of hours analyzing games with my wife over the years. There is nothing unusual in the least about tracking games, analyzing games, putting them through engines. This is all absolutely normal, and portraying it as overbearing or aggressive behavior is just a lack of understanding of the tool. Opie. Go take a look at some of my other comments to get a sense of how I am teaching him. I think you'll see that I'm not crushing the life out of him. Comment. Son analyzes the game too? Opie, yes, in every single game he has played with both me and my wife, he has recorded every move and then analyzed the games with us after the fact. That you imagine that to be some unacceptably impossible task for a 10-year-old is pretty telling. In any case, you've clearly made up your mind that I'm a monster and nothing I say will change that. I won't respond to you anymore. Update 1. Oh man, strap in my babies, it's update time. Probably not the update that a lot of you were for, but well, hey, too bad for you. Before I get going, I feel like I really have to shout out you/Peachy_Gizmo. I include this at the end, my dude. You were so bang on with your comment, it's not even funny. Whatever it is you do, you should probably quit doing that and go be a psychologist or a mind reader or something, because you're flat out amazing. Crazy how perfectly you had it pegged. I'm floored. Update 2. I took the advice that was presented in the original thread, and yesterday, when my son got home from school, I invited him to play a game of what I decided to call switch chess. Users in the last thread suggested that we play in a way where at any time my son can call out switch and we flip the board around. He gets the side I used to have and I get his. We played and it was great. It was super fun, we were laughing and having a great time. At the end he fed me all his pieces and then called switch and chased my lone king around the board. It was hilarious. We were into our second game, laughing and yelling. He was up out of his seat dancing when my wife got home. The second she saw us playing, I could tell she was immediately mad. She didn't say anything, but she was clearly pissed. She was radiating anger. She left the living room and went to our bedroom. I finished up with my son, told him we could play more later, and went to the bedroom to go talk to my wife. I asked how her day was and she just said, fine. I just let the silence go for a few seconds and she asked how I was playing with him. I told her about switch chess and how he could flip the board around anytime he wanted, and she immediately told me, don't play with him like that, it's not good for his development. In fact, just don't play with him at all anymore, you're just going to him up. Which was, pretty hostile. I didn't say anything, just looked at her like, what is going on? I could see her start tearing up. I moved toward her to go hold her and she just went ballistic, started crying and hitting me and screaming at me that I couldn't have chess. It's hers. It's not fair. I have everything and she is nothing and I can't take this from her. Total meltdown. I just had to let her go off for a while and let it out. Then once she cried it out a bit, I approached her gently and sat with her and we talked about it because we're married and we love each other. She told me she feels like our son loves me more than her, which from where I'm standing is like crazy. Our son adores his mom, but that's how she feels. She said she has always felt that he liked me better and she's jealous of all the things he and I do together in the close relationship that we have, and she feels like she doesn't have any point of connection with him. When he was younger, I took about a year of leave to stay home with him, and she said that in that time I developed a relationship that she can't have with him. She told me I have everything with our son and she feels like she is nothing, that we play Minecraft, we watch YouTube together, I teach him to cook, I have long conversations with him, and she knew that if I started playing chess with him it would just be another thing that she couldn't compete with me on and that he would like me better like always and would want to play with me more. She admitted that she wanted to sabotage me and make it unfun for him to play with me so that he would only want to play with her and she could have something to bond with him on. That was really tough to hear. My son and I do have a close relationship, but I really thought their relationship was just as good. I had no idea she felt this way. I never imagined she felt like she had to compete with me for years apparently. I felt so bad for her. She said she pushed me to agree that we wouldn't let him win so that she could be the fun one to play with, and that when I realized she was letting him win and questioned her about it she just panicked and said that she was playing at full strength even though she obviously wasn't and it didn't make any sense. She said she knew it made no sense, but she just said it, and once it was said she felt too trapped to back away from it, so she just kept saying it. She told me she's been terrified that I might start losing to him too and that he would stop wanting to play with her. I asked her why she didn't just talk to me about this, and she said it's because she was too ashamed, that she knew that she was being hateful and that she's a horrible person, but she couldn't help it. I just held her for a long time and told her she's not horrible at all, that I love her, that our son loves her, and that she's the most wonderful mother in the world. I really believe those things. My wife is amazing. It ripped my heart out to hear how hard she was being on herself. She just kept insisting that she was up and evil and what she did was horrible. I told her I could completely understand why she did what she did. To be honest, I'm still very hurt by her behavior and honestly feel pretty messed up from the weeks of questioning my sanity. But of course I did not tell her that. Not the right time, we can talk about it later. I told her that I love her and I fully understand how she felt. I told her I understand what a massive part of her life chess is and how she must have felt that it was being taken away from her. I told her I never want to compete with her on anything, least of all our son's love. I held her and reassured her for a long time. We had a pretty emotional night last night, but I think we're in a better place now. In the end, we decided that chess can be her thing with our son for now. I'll hang back and just let them have their time. Maybe in the future when my wife feels more secure, I'll start playing with our son again. Later on I'll talk with my wife about how she approached this and how it made me feel. But for now I'm just happy she feels better and that she's not going crazy and that I'm not going crazy, haha. Because I was really starting to feel like I was going nuts over the past while. I want to address all of the people who told me I was an insane, egomaniacal, controlling monster. A shitty husband who loves bullying his wife and a sadistic father who loves torturing his child. There were a lot of you. I'm certain that nothing I've written here will change your opinion of me. I'm sure you will somehow find a way to continue to blame me for causing all of this, that I'm neglectful and evil and excluding my wife or any of the other things that you project onto me. But I want to address you anyway. I want to tell you that I really feel for all of you. I truly hope you find peace. I can see how deeply you're suffering, how bad you're hurting. I'm so sorry that your lives have left you in a place where you can't even imagine a scenario where a father might actually love his child, where a husband is envious and monstrous demon trying to destroy his wife's life. I'm sorry that's how you see the world. I want you to know that the world isn't always like that and you don't have to keep living like that. You don't have to keep living in that world where everything you see is evil and everyone is out to do harm. You don't have to stay there, you can come out. I really hope you get the help you need. Life can be better than that. I wish all of you well. My wife and son are playing chess right now. I'm really happy about that. Edit. The absolute tidal wave of comments on this. Yes, I will get my wife into therapy. Thank you for your concern. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.